all-day viewers. Just go ahead and, of course, scan that QR code at the bottom of the screen to get a head start on your holiday shopping. So, let's get started. First up, a name you know, Kendra Scott. Forbes says she is one of America's richest self-made women, and in 2019, I met up with the jewelry designer to help announce a very special mission that Kendra launched to support other women trying to make it.
Hooray!
Hooray, here we are. So where are we now? This is your beautiful
This will be the space, and this is where, the actual institute will be, but it's really a gathering place. It's a place for women and men to come and really be empowered.
Here's the Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute at the University of Texas at Austin, where jewelry designer Kendra Scott has donated $1 million to help the next generation of entrepreneurs.
This is really a passion project because you didn't go here.
No, I actually didn't finish college, so I'd started my first little business when I was 19. It was a little hat company, and 5 years of trying to make that work, it failed. And I always say I got a master's degree in the School of Hard Knocks, and it really helped me build the foundation to build a successful company that we have today.
In 2002, Kendra Scott, a new mom, started her self-named company with just $500.
I loved colored gemstones, and I couldn't afford what I wanted. And I thought if there was a way that I could make beautiful colored gems in beautiful handcrafted designs that were attainable for women.
Where did you go to get the stones, and how did you know how to make jewelry?
So we had local beach shops, and I went to a local beach shop and I took some classes. I took some classes at a local college just to learn how to do basic jewelry making.
Kendra made her designs at home and went store to store in Austin trying to sell her jewelry line.
Take me back to how this all started and the first pair of earrings.
And I remember going to the first store and actually being told no, and have the courage to go to another store. It's like finding that inner courage, that perseverance of, okay, this one said no, but it's not the end.
With that persistence, Kendra finally got her first yes and hit major milestones along the way, including being featured on the 2006 Oscar de la Renta runway, which put her designs on the map.
So tell me about that process, because I know that raising money was challenging for you.
We didn't raise money until 2012, so 10 years. We were bootstrapping this business. I did it on lines of credit, on credit card debt. And when the recession hit, the bank actually called my loan for no reason. But it took a female president of a local Texas bank that I sat across from, and she knew how determined I was, and she took that loan on.
The company, now valued at $1 billion, has 2,000 employees and over 90% are women.
What would you say your biggest obstacle has been?
I think going through a divorce in the early stages of my business, having two young little boys, and I realized during that time that it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes I think as women especially, we feel like, well, that's a sign of weakness if we ask for help. And to me, it is the greatest sign of strength.
Now Kendra is giving back to causes that matter to her, like the future of entrepreneurs in business.
Let's hear it for Kendra Scott.
Would today be a day that you would say to yourself, okay, I made it?
I feel like every day I wake up and I think there's so much to do. But I would say this is a day that I am very proud of.
Our mission is to strengthen the next generation of courageous, creative female leaders.
What do you want students to take from what you're building here?
I want to look at this 5, 10, 15 years from now, and I want to see how we've changed the face of female leadership.
Since the announcement of the Women's Entrepreneurial Institute in Austin, they've opened their doors and hosted their first virtual summit last year. This past summer, Kendra Scott also launched its first men's line called Scott Brothers. And I have some items from their new line right here. Such great gifts for the guys in your life. And Kendra Scott has an amazing Black Friday deal happening right now. 25% off their fine and sterling silver jewelry and 30% off everything else. So let's get shopping. All right, up next, there's only one way to describe this next success story. OMG. Ann Harper was one of the first women I met for our She Made It series. She went from waiting tables to owning her own colorful multi-million-dollar business. And she told me the incredible story behind OMG accessories. Puppies, kitties, and unicorns, oh my! We've stepped into OMG Accessories' New York showroom.
It's like a unicorn gave birth to a showroom.
The glittery accessories are the brainchild of founder and CEO Ann Harper, who turned her love of handbags into a multi-million-dollar brand.
What is it like for you when you see all of this work in one place? It must be such a thrill every day.
It is, honestly, this is everything that I dreamed of as a little girl.
And as a little girl, Harper knew this was her calling.
Putting my pink tutu on with my pink cashmere and my little glitter shoes, like I knew that I wanted to be in fashion.
Harper's path to success wasn't always shiny and pretty. For 16 years, Harper waitressed at a restaurant outside Chicago while working at a handbag company.
You walked in there with basically just an empty palette, like a sponge, saying, please teach me.
I was so eager to learn every aspect of this business that, I remember I looked to someone and I said, I'm gonna have a handbag company one day, you watch. And everyone thought I was crazy and out of my mind.
Harper was determined to prove everyone wrong and started developing her own business plan.
Just being a young female, it's just sometimes hard to have your voice be heard. And I just realized the only way that I could be heard was if I did this myself and started on this venture.
She used her waitressing job to network, asking for advice from the people she served, her customers, who liked what they were hearing.
I started asking, would you be interested in investing in a company if I started my own business?
And do you remember that first investment you got, what that feeling was like?
I raised $100,000. I couldn't believe it. I felt like if I could convince people that I was the one to bet on, I knew that I could do it.
She did it all right. In 2009, Harper launched OMG Accessories from her tiny Chicago apartment, but almost lost it all when one deal fell through.
The order ended up getting canceled. It was for 60,000 handbags. And they were special made kids styles. I was like, this could put me out of business.
Right.
What's a girl to do with 60,000 handbags? Harper turned her challenge into an opportunity.
I ended up reaching out to anyone and just asked if they had kids departments. And they said yes, they were actually looking for inventory. I had all these new customers. And so they asked me, what's next? What do you have? We ended up creating all this product that was for this demographic, and everyone loved it.
9 years later, Harper is a girl boss with a staff of 14 people.
Is this a moment that you look around thinking to yourself, I can't believe this is me?
I feel like I've accomplished, what I set out to do. I know that the road that's in front of me, there's so much more.
Now sold in over 100 retail stores worldwide, including Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom, OMG is dominating the tween accessories market.
So much fun looking around here.
Critters are the craze. Well, unicorns especially are the hottest thing. I have never seen anything like this.
Isn't that awesome? Well, OMG Accessories saw their highest direct-to-consumer sales day in their company's history when our 2018 story aired. And since then, their total sales have increased by 200%. They've also added new products from boys' items to travel to home accessories. Best part, they have an exclusive deal just for Today viewers, 20% off with the code TODAY20. Really exciting. All right, coming up, meet the woman who has a solution for overload bag syndrome. Oh yeah, it's a real thing. And 3 friends who are mixing things up in the alcohol beverage industry. Stay tuned.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, I know, right?
5 seconds before.
some late breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the banner and everything.
All right, it just me too.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late breaking news.
All right, it just me too.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. Well, this past summer, I had the chance to chat with an engineer turned entrepreneur who is solving a problem she calls overload bag syndrome. I know so many women who could relate to this, myself included. Cheryl Mosey has the perfect solution, though. Take a look.
I don't want to wake up one day and say, I wish I shoulda, coulda. I want to be able to say, at least I tried.
23 years ago, when Cheryl Mosey was let go from her aerospace job, she turned her misfortune into an opportunity to help others.
I started a nonprofit organization where I raised money to help single moms in college pay for childcare. But while I was working with the moms, I would see them carrying their diaper bag and their book bag and sometimes their purse. And I started thinking about this idea for this new type of bag where I could organize and separate items, but I didn't have any experience, so I was like, well, I don't know if I can really do this.
Cheryl set out to find a solution for what she calls overload bag syndrome, but without a background in fashion, she didn't know where to start.
I didn't know anything about manufacturing, sourcing, design, and so I started talking to people who knew more than I did and really engaging with the industry.
How did you get your first sample made?
I can't sew, I can hardly draw, so I actually went to Target. I bought a bag of the same size and same shape of what I had in my head, and I just started cutting it up and manipulating the bag and bringing that vision to life.
That's like everything right there, and you did it.
In just 30 days, Cheryl raised funds through a Kickstarter campaign, and combined with her savings, she launched Minky Blue in 2014. But it came with its challenges.
What was your first order? Do you remember it?
Yeah, oh yeah, because it was too much for someone just starting a business who had no customer base or anything. I ordered 1,200 bags, and that was way too much.
So what did you do?
Unfortunately, with that first production, 30% of my product was defective. That was really, really hard. I mean, there were many nights that I cried because I lost a lot of money. And I realized that I needed to slow down. And then I just really learned what I could before I went to produce any more bags. All of the bags have this panel here.
Cheryl designed her versatile bags with both function and style in mind, securing 2 utility patents for her fashion brand.
This is a shelf in the middle of the bag that converts the bag from 2 compartments to 1.
Today, the direct-to-consumer brand has sold thousands of handbags since its launch, shipping worldwide as far as Australia and South Africa.
Do you ever sit back and think how proud you are of yourself that you didn't give up?
I do, because sometimes we beat ourselves up so much. I feel so blessed of all that I've accomplished, and I do these little dance spurts to remind myself of the happiness.
You're on the Today Show. Can I see a dance spurt?
I just celebrate my dance spurt, and I just say thank you. I'm so grateful.
What do you hope other entrepreneurs will learn from you? Somebody who feels that frustration and has those tears that you had.
I would just say nothing beats a failure but a try. So take that first step and make your own prototype.
And then do the dance.
And do the happy dance.
just awesome, and Minky Blue reported earning over $30,000 in 24 hours after our segment aired over the summer. And since then, she struck a $100,000 purchase deal with Macy's. Congratulations. And you guessed it, Minky Blue is offering 20% off their bags for our Today viewers with the promo code TODAY20. That definitely deserves a happy dance. All right, I love this next story about a group of game-changing women from San Francisco who are really shaking things up. At 21 Seeds, girls call the shots. But trust me, this is definitely not your average tequila. For the makers of 21 Seeds Tequila, irony actually comes in a bottle.
3 counts. 1, 2, 3.
It's interesting how this company came about because you were actually told to stop drinking.
Yep. I started having night sweats. So I went to my doctor and he said, listen, stop drinking fermented spirits. So move away from wines and beer and move to distilled spirits.
Kat Hontus followed doctor's orders.
You gotta try it with the tahini.
And she started drinking Blanco tequila that comes from the agave plant, a cleaner spirit without the additives and organic matter found in beer and wine.
Almost immediately, the night sweats stopped.
After several years of homemade research and development, Kat, along with her sister Nicole Emanuel and friend Sarika Singh, knew they had something.
I was sort of making bootleg tequila, bootleg infused tequila. And I was serving it to all my friends at parties.
It's really smooth.
One of Kat's secret powers actually is her palate. She can taste every single note in something.
This is the easiest cocktail that there is.
You said to me, this isn't your college tequila.
21 Seeds is actually an infused tequila. We infuse with real fruit, and that imparts just a hint of flavor. It makes it super smooth.
Friends started asking Kat for her homemade orange, grapefruit, and cucumber tequila, and 21 Seeds was launched last year.
So it really was one of the aha moments, your husband saying to you, I'm tired of you making tequila in our kitchen and bringing it to people's homes?
Yes.
The journey of the 21 Seeds brand from Kat's kitchen to the store shelf was a boozy one.
How many iterations did it take?
I would say it took almost probably like 20 or 30, if not more, over a course of like 9 months.
In order to truly get a taste for a tequila, Kat had to have an empty stomach.
I was like, oh God, I gotta taste tequila in the morning at 7 in the morning.
True tequila has to come from Jalisco, Mexico. And Kat, Nicole, and Sarika found one of the only distilleries there run by women to make their brand.
So the goal was really, how do we do what she's doing at scale and not compromise on the taste, on the quality, on anything?
The trio raised $2 million and then went for broke. Their first pitch was to a large West Coast beverage retailer called Bevmo.
So you called them up and you said, hey, with 3 women, we have this tequila, can we come in?
Yeah, we emailed them and said exactly that.
All were in Mexico working on their infused tequila when they heard the news.
And Kat's like, look at this, what does this say? What does this say? I don't know how to read a PO, give me what are you saying? And it was all 3 SKUs, all 146 stores, and basically our first run.
What's next for 21 Seeds?
World domination.
Cheers! After our story aired, 21 Seeds reported selling 5,000 cases. And this year, they're projected to sell 130,000. How amazing is that? And 21 Seeds is offering a deal just for our Today viewers, 15% off your purchase with Today 15. I don't have a sample, but cheers to that. All right, coming up, another incredible She Made It story about women who are helping us making the most of our celebrations just in time for the holidays.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life in primetime And streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Is that ready? Are you ready? Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi there and welcome back. Our next two stories are perfect for gift giving and celebrating all year round. First up, we have Ashley Fuyol and her business Unwrap, a one-stop shop for all your gift wrapping needs, just in time for the holidays.
I was working as a graphic designer when I noticed every time I went gift shopping, the wrapping paper was generic or cliche. I didn't want to wrap my gifts in that. I wanted art. So in 2017, after quitting my job, using the last bit of my 401k, I purchased a printer to start my dream business. From my Brooklyn apartment, Unwrap was born, to serve as a one-stop shop for all of your gifting needs. I work with talented artists to make their designs come to life on gift wrap, notebooks, greeting cards, and more. What catches my eye the most? Vibrant colors and unique patterns. We've grown from holiday markets and pop-up shops to West Elms and Macy's. Every day is a gift when you're in the business of celebration.
Such beautiful options, and Unwrap reported a huge bump in sales after the segment, and just recently they partnered with Netflix for their newest series, Ada Twist Scientists, which I have right here, and their holiday collection is live, so be sure to check that out. All right, next up, we met Stephanie Hall earlier this year, who told us about how she turned her fondest childhood memories into a beautiful brand.
As a child, I spent summers in South Carolina with my grandmother Estelle. We treasure hunted for colored glass. Her collection was always on display at the dinner table. Fast forward to 2014, I was furnishing my own home when I realized nothing on the market was as special as my grandmother's. After years of research, I found skilled glassmakers that could produce the high-quality pieces of my dreams. And finally, in 2019, my business, Estelle Colored Glass, was born. Our pieces include our signature cake stand, inspired by my grandmother's famous pound cake, and glassware in jewel and pastel colors. Aside from invading bar carts and cake tastings across the nation, Estelle Colored Glass is now available at major home stores like West Elm and Anthropology. Our heirloom quality pieces will help create lasting memories just like mine.
Look how beautiful Estelle Colored Glass has been thriving during the pandemic, and Stephanie credits some of their success to the 15% Pledge, the nonprofit organization that challenges major retailers to devote 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned businesses. And since our story aired, they've launched a number of different collections, including champagne coupes, rock glasses, martini glasses, and their Regal line of stemware. Go ahead and scan that QR code to shop these amazing brands. All right, coming up, some of my favorite small businesses I cannot wait to tell you about. Don't go away.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go!
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go! You think you'll run for office one of these days? I'm not saying no to anything. Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
That was amazing.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. I have even more small businesses that I'm so jazzed to share with you on my She Made It list. All these incredible brands are female founded with some great gift ideas for all of your loved ones, starting with the Dough Project. This craft dough kit was founded by Chelsea Milkman, a former New York City preschool teacher who's on a mission to spread classroom magic by creating hands-on toys that kids love and parents feel good about. The dough is all plant-based and safe for the littlest hands, all colored with natural ingredients like beet and turmeric. Chelsea started out making it in her tiny 600 square foot Manhattan studio apartment in 2018, and today you can find the Dough Project in 23 Nordstroms across the US and Canada. Be sure to check out their Dough of the Month Club subscription service launching next month. Great gifts for the kids this holiday season. All right, and we can't forget about our furry friends this holiday season. Next up, we have the Foggy Dog. Founder Rose Shattuck launched her company dedicated to man's best friend when she and her husband had trouble finding a dog bed for their first dog, Utah. So what did she do? She made it. Rose bought her own fabric, and with the help of a seamstress, she created a dog bed she actually liked. With the extra fabric, she made even more, put them online, and they sold out immediately. A month later, Anthropology called and wanted to carry her dog bed. And Rose knew she was onto something. Since then, the Foggy Dog has launched into all sorts of dog accessories and toys, from bow ties to leashes. They have a great Black Friday deal happening right now, too. And with every order, the Foggy Dog donates half a pound of food to dog shelters across America. Well, that is all for our She Made It gift guide. Thanks for watching, and remember to shop these small businesses and get all the deals we showed you today. Scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen or head over to today.com/shop. I'm Jill Martin, and I'll see you next time. Happy gifting, everyone.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, I know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news. 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses.
All right, it just did too. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. You think you'll run for office one of these days?
I'm not saying no to anything.
Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? Yeah, 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the mail-in beverages.
All right, it just needs to.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app
How do you recharge when you have so many projects, you have so much going on? What fills your cup?
What fills my cup is Prosecco or wine.
Fair enough. Literally.
So that is, that definitely helps to relax me. I love like listening to a good book, reading a good book, watching television, not necessarily movies. I like to be immersed in a world, and that's kind of where that's where I live. Like I love that. That's how I relax.
So then it's when we see people make it, sometimes you assume that the people, never have to worry again, or they feel like, oh, I've made it. But clearly it seems like you are always evolving.
I am, but it just comes from a desire to want to keep learning and want to see what else I can do to try to do more. So that's just kind of been, I think that's a part of me.
All right, lightning round, last thing. You ready? Rapid fire. Favorite character you've ever written?
Favorite character I've ever written is baby voice Darius in Awkward Black Girl. Derek?
Darius. Mantra you live by?
Give to the world your best, and the best will come back to you.
Oh, I like that. Guilty pleasure?
Crime documentaries.
Favorite way to unwind?
I mean, drinking.
Have you ever done lavender infused simple syrup?
No.
Ooh. You just get some fresh lavender and you just boil it and make it a simple syrup, and you pour that in the Prosecco.
Ooh, I just learned that for rosemary and didn't think to do it with anything else. So I'm 100% gonna do that.
Lavender.
I love that.
Lavender, you're welcome. The TV character you're most like?
Khadijah from Living Single.
Oh, Khadijah, I haven't heard that in a while. TV character you most want to be like?
Denise from Cosby Show. Yeah, I dress like. Denise was kind of aloof.
Oh,
but
okay.
I want Denise's fashion. Who I want to be like? I would say like Maxine from Living Single.
Maxine. Living Single was...
It was monumental.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I want to live. I didn't know that existed. Like you could live single on your own. Don't let me get started. Okay. Texting or talking?
Texting. No, talking in person. I'm sorry. Talking
in person. Four more. Who inspires you the most?
Debbie Allen.
Oh yeah. I was able to tell her how much I loved her the other day.
She's incredible.
She's everything. Best hype music?
Lil Scrappy, No Problem.
Haha. Favorite food?
Gumbo and Chebugin.
Oh. Favorite drink?
Prosecco.
Place you
Prosecco with vodka.
Cheers. Place you do your best thinking?
In the shower.
Last three. Word to live by for 2021?
Tomorrow's a better day.
Ooh, amen. Thing you're most looking forward to post-pandemic?
I cannot wait to throw a lit ass house party. Cannot wait.
House parties. Remember those?
Yes.
The last question. What's the one question you never get asked that you wish someone would ask you?
Do you want to get some food on me?
What?
I just wish people would ask that more.
Like, do you want to say the question again?
Do you want to get some food on me?
Oh, like on me.
Like
I'll pay for it.
I mean, the other way works too. I could have said that better. It needed some commas.
Well, because you remember the Sex and the City episode with Samantha and the sushi? I don't know.
Yes. Wasn't that in the movie? When she was
maybe. No, you're right. It was a movie. No, you're right. It was in the movie. And so I was like, is that a scene? Like, are you trying?
I mean, it could be. I'm not mad at that either. If the food is free.
If the food is free. Thank you so much. I hope I talk to you again. Like you were so good.
I hope I see you in person again. And thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. God bless.
Welcome to Today All Day.
All day?
Today, all day. All day.
This is a long way of asking who's your favorite character you've ever played? The unicorn. The unicorn. You gotta have the unicorn.
What is she right there? That's why you're saying all these nice things?
Yeah, she gave me the look.
Sorry to disturb your day.
Everyone's mad at you, Willie.
Better make this fast. I don't want the wrath of Luna.
When I see you, I always think, I wonder what his quote would be.
Give us 6 minutes and we'll ask as many questions as we can.
Welcome to Cold Cuts.
Cold cut, cold cut.
My buddy Cal cooking with me.
Dads don't babysit. It's called parenting.
What was the first book you remember loving?
Heart Smart today with simple exercises to strengthen your heart.
Make the most of your beach days.
It's all about the tracksuit now. How good do they look?
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Kiss the bride.
This morning, a story of people helping people.
You've received tons of letters from people who have been inspired.
Let's do the weather out. Okay. All you gotta do is say, it's cold, it's warm, it's raining, it's snowing. That's it.
One of our most favorite franchises ever, Ambush Makeovers.
Okay.
Look at it. It doesn't look so good.
No, it doesn't look good.
Will you judge us in a cook-off?
I will, and you
Okay.
guys will definitely win something.
Today, all day.
All day?
All day.
Welcome to Today All Day.
Oh my God, it smells so good. I just got like a woof. A woof? A whiff. My family has a saying, never show up with your arms swinging, which basically means do not come to a party empty-handed. And for us, food is the #1 thing you can bring. So today, I'm showing you how to make 3 delicious treats that any host will adore. First up, I am making one of my most requested recipes, my perfectly spiced pumpkin bread. Then, sour cherry and pistachio bars, which are super simple to make. And finally, a spiked and spiced apple cider that all comes together in a slow cooker. First up, I am making pumpkin bread, and I have to give credit to my good friend Dawn. She shared this recipe with me over 20 years ago, and I've been tweaking it ever since, here and there playing with the proportions of spices, but I think I've gotten it to the point where it is perfect. And the good news is, this recipe makes 2 loaves. One for me, and one for somebody else. The first step is to mix all of the dry ingredients, starting with some flour. So always fluff and scoop your flour. Ooh, very fluffy today. And we need 3 cups of this. 1. If I don't count to myself, I will forget for sure. 2. Has anyone else ever done that, where you had to dump the flour back into the canister and start again? Or is that just me? And this is just all-purpose flour. Move that out of the way. And now for the fun stuff, the stuff that makes this loaf so good, the spices. And I'm using something that used to be pretty uncommon up until a few years ago, Vietnamese cinnamon. It is similar to regular cinnamon, however, it has the flavor profile of red hot candies. Is basically the only way I know how to describe it. So 1 teaspoon of that. And that's not enough cinnamon for a pumpkin bread. So just regular cinnamon, an additional teaspoon and a quarter. And always level off your ingredients so that you're getting the proper quantities. To continue with those fall warm spices, some nutmeg. I prefer whole, that I grate fresh. It's a teaspoon and a half. I love how I just lectured you on measuring things properly, and now I'm eyeballing it. But I'm a professional. And that looks right. Finally, some cloves. I really like the warmth that they add. Just a quarter teaspoon of that. Salt, you always need salt. 1.5 teaspoons. Last but not least, for the dry goods, we need some leavener, and I am using 2 teaspoons of baking soda. So right on in. Perfect. Whisk it up really well. You want the spices and leavener to be evenly distributed. That's well combined. Now we can get working on our wet ingredients. The first thing you're going to need are some room temperature eggs. I'm using 4 large eggs. Don't forget, always crack your eggs on a flat surface. If you do it here, you're pushing the shell right on into the inside. These are some pretty bougie eggs. Okay. And then just whisk the eggs until they're smooth. Now, you may notice I'm doing this in a stand mixer bowl, mainly because it's the perfect size for this recipe that I'm doing. I also love the higher edges, make it easier to whisk and keep things from flying out when you're mixing them. But you can use any very large bowl that you have in your house. Okay, that's nice and smooth. Now we're going to add a couple ingredients. All the remaining ingredients are what makes this super moist, starting with some vegetable oil. And I'm going to just drizzle that in while whisking, just to help emulsify it. My bowl is dancing. We're gonna do the same with 2/3 of a cup of just plain old water. Okay. Same thing, you wanna make sure that the water, the oil are very well combined. Up next, sugar, a little bit, 3 cups worth. Listen, this is why it's so good. It's dessert or breakfast. It's totally fine. Then just whisk the sugar in. Really get in there, making sure it's fully combined. Just like that. Last but not least, the star of the show, aside from me, some pumpkin puree. This is a 15-ounce can, and just make sure that it is just plain pumpkin puree. And pumpkin just such a great ingredient because not only is it delicious, but it's another reason why this pumpkin bread is so moist. And just whisk that in, and it will churn this gorgeous pumpkin-y color. Make sure all of the wet ingredients are completely combined at this point so that you don't overmix your dry when we add them in a second. So, I just got a whiff of all those amazing spices. I'll start with the whisk. Once it's mostly combined, then I'll just switch to a spat and give it a last couple of folds to make sure everything is well combined. It's okay if there are some lumps. That's all there is to it. Super simple. Now, I have 2 standard loaf tins here, and they are sprayed with nonstick cooking spray. And just eyeball the batter, dividing it evenly between the 2 pans. Did that pretty perfectly. Okay, clean up your edges if you need to. I like to give it a little tap to get rid of any air bubbles. I'm going to bake these at 350 degrees for about 70 minutes until a toothpick comes out cleanly when inserted into the center. Let's see if I can do both of these at once. I'm so excited to be able to dig into one of these. Once the loaves come out of the oven, let them sit for 15 minutes, then carefully remove them from their pans and put them on a cooling rack. Grab one. Look how gorgeous that inside is. Isn't it pretty? Do that. I think this one is for me. It is so soft, so fluffy. It has a beautiful crumb. It is incredibly moist. I like the middle piece. Give me a scarf, light the fire, and I am one happy person. This makes an incredible snack, an amazing dessert, even toasted in the morning with a little bit of butter for breakfast. Amazing.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts. Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
One of the few things that I actually like about summer is the abundance and plentifulness of fruit, specifically sour cherries. Every summer, I make it a point to go sour cherry picking, and the window to do so is literally sometimes 2 days, up to 2 weeks. So I buy it by the bucketfuls and make some jam. By the time the fall rolls around, I have jars upon jars of jam, and I'm always looking for fun ways to use them. And this is one of my favorites, my sour cherry and pistachio bars. The first thing that I need to do is take 1 cup of pistachios. These are roasted and lightly salted, and put them in a mini chopper. You can do this by hand, but this is so much faster. So you just want to pulse this until finely chopped. Totally okay if there's some larger pieces. That is just going to mean we're going to have some really nice texture in our finished bars. That looks great. Now the remaining dry ingredients. Start with the really delicious stuff first. So some sweetened shredded coconut, 1 cup of that as well. Honestly, I call this my sour cherry and pistachio bars, but I really should throw the word coconut in there. Do not discount what this ingredient does for this recipe. It adds an extra layer of sweetness, and it's so delicious. The flavors of all 3 of these are amazing together. Salt, 1 teaspoon. What is a dry ingredient without flour? Okay. Now, since we have larger pieces of nuts and that shredded coconut, the best tool to mix this, your hands. Just make sure everything is evenly incorporated and well distributed so that every bite of these bars has a little bit of all these delicious ingredients in it. I'm gonna just give my hands a quick just set this aside and time to start working on our remaining ingredients, starting with a stick and a half of unsalted butter. When baking, I always use European style butter if possible. It has a higher fat content and is often more flavorful. Then some more sweet. Half a cup of regular sugar. And a half a cup of packed light brown sugar. But just going to cream this until light and fluffy using a paddle attachment. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes depending on how warm your kitchen is. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can use a hand mixer. It'll just take longer and you won't get as well of a nice light and fluffy creamed butter and sugar mixture. Really, I couldn't live without this tool. I love it so much. Mine at home has a name. I miss you, Penny. Always scrape down the sides and the bottoms periodically to make sure everything's being combined evenly. Okay, this looks perfect. Just a couple more ingredients. 1 large egg. And as if these bars weren't flavorful enough, some vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon. Then just mix it combined. Okay, all that's left to do is mix in the dry ingredients. You want to mix these in slowly, on low. You don't want to overbeat the flour mixture. Now for the fun part, to assemble the bars. I have an 8-inch square cake pan, and what I've done is I've lined it with 2 strips of aluminum foil. This is really gonna help make this come out later. Then, just to really make sure it comes out, a quick spritz with some non-stick cooking spray. I'm going to take about 3/4 of this mixture and just flop it on in. Okay, time to get down and dirty. Push it into the bottom of the prepared cake pan. You could even use the back of a measuring spoon to help level. Okay, this looks great. Now for some sour cherry jam, preserves. And I always like to just kind of give it a stir to loosen it, which will make it easy to spread. So I'm using about 2/3 of a cup of the jam, just a nice, even, thin coating. Then what truly makes these super stunning is the crumb topping, which is just the same mixture we've already created. So just break it into little abstract clusters and let it fall onto the jam. Make sure you leave some of that beautiful jam exposed. Okay, this looks really good. I'm going to put this in a 350-degree oven for about 30 to 35 minutes until the top is lightly golden brown. How beautiful does this look? I've removed them from the pan, carefully removed the foil. They're super delicate, so you want to make sure that they are fully cool before you cut them. Just going to carefully slide it onto my cutting board. And then just cut them into 9 equal bars. Doesn't that look beautiful? And I promise you, it tastes even better than it looks. These truly are so delicious. It really is the ultimate flavor combination. The jam, the pistachios, the coconut, sweet, salty, and the perfect gift.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts. Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
There are not too many things more comforting than a warm glass of cider on a cool fall day. And not only is this recipe delicious, it is going to make your home smell amazing, like the best fall candle you've ever gotten in your life. And the best part, it's super easy and all takes place in a slow cooker. The first thing I'm going to do is slice an orange into 1/4 inch rounds or so. Get rid of the bitter ends, actually. And this is just a large navel orange. No need to peel it. And that's going to go right into the bottom of a slow cooker. Up next, some spices. These whole spices are going to permeate throughout the cider and just infuse it. It's so delicious. So I'm using cinnamon sticks, 6 of them. Six whole cloves, a star anise, which I'm not normally the biggest fan of, but in something like this, it just imparts just a subtle flavor and it's super delicious. And some whole allspice, 4 to be exact. Now, apple cider is sweet on its own, but I'm going to add just a 1/4 cup of dark brown sugar for extra sweetness and subtle molassesy flavor. Up next, some spiced rum. And this gives it the spiked part of the cider. So 3/4 cup. And even though we're gonna cook this for 2 hours, you're still going to have alcohol left behind. Believe it or not, it's not going to fully cook off. So pour that right on in. And you can't have apple cider without apple cider. So 1/2 gallon. Just pour that in. Done. All that's left to do is to pop on the lid and put this on high for 2 hours, then switch it to warm, and it's ready to be served whenever you're ready to serve it. So now I have 2 hours to just clean up and relax.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun.
Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Not only are you not going to go to a party empty-handed, I'm going to show you how to bouge things up so people think, wow, he really cares. So the first thing I'm going to do is wrap up the pumpkin bread. I wrapped it in some just craft paper, which you can get at any local craft store. It's still in its foil, which will keep the paper from getting ruined. And then I just went through the craft store and was like, oh, this looks like fall. That looks like fall. And I'm just gonna wrap it up. So this is just some simple twine. They come in all different sizes, shapes, and colors. And just give it a few twists. I like to do, when it's thin like this, multiple times in one direction. And then the equal amount in the opposite direction. Cut it, and then just fold it under. And just a quick couple of nuts. Trim the excess, flip it over. And I found these cute little maple leaf tags, perfect for fall. And I'll just tie that in the center. I think I like the little excess. And then, just because I'm extra, that's the loaf. For the bars, I'm just using one of these boxes that I found at the same craft store, and I folded some parchment to be able to slide it in and create a barrier for the bars so that they don't leave oil splotches, and then just stack them in. Then I fold this over. These bars are so beautiful that I really wanted something with a see-through top so that I can admire my work. just like that. Okay. So just close the lid. And how great does that look? My cousin's gonna love that. And last but not least, the cider. It still smells so good. It's cooled completely so that I can package it. And I'm just gonna ladle it into a pretty mason jar. This is great because it'll keep fresh in the fridge for 3 days. I got these little fabric swatches. Just secure it on with the lid. And then because I love to serve this with a cinnamon stick, I like to tie one to the side of the jar. Just like that. Look at all these beautifully wrapped fall treats. Now you have no excuse to ever show up empty-handed to a party again.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
I don't know why I'm thinking this in this moment, but I was just thinking when you very first had your very first day at work at the Today Show, I don't picture you being intimidated, but I wonder if when you walked in on day one, if you were.
I mean, yes, I think. And I think I was well aware that I was coming from teaching, that it was a total shift in what I'd been doing. I think the other thing that was hard is that the very first time I sat down on the couch, they were announcing like, oh, you're joining the show and let's talk about you. And for some reason, I know this may sound weird now, but that made me uncomfortable.
Talking about
myself.
Yourself.
Like telling the stories. I was so excited because then we were flying to Dallas and I was going to tell the story of this little boy that I'd met there that I just loved. And that part felt natural to me, the storytelling about somebody else. But when they were talking about me, I just remember like blushing and feeling kind of embarrassed.
I remember the initial days and look, NBC's a great place to work and everyone's really nice. But whenever you go into a new place and the people have been there for years and years and years and you're learning the skills, like I know that you're a worker, but I didn't realize how hard you worked until you came to NBC. I mean, you did not stop. You were like, I'm going to work until I learn all this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, a therapist might say too much because I think, you know, coming into a new place, I'm also aware of what people might think about me. You know, I have a public life. I had a public life really by not my choice, but I was born into one. And so I'm not naive. I knew that people might think, oh, you know, she doesn't need to work. You know, why does she work hard? And so I think I tried to prove otherwise. And maybe people didn't even think that. You know, I have no idea, but I worked against that.
So I don't think I've ever been anywhere with you where someone hasn't said, "Oh my gosh, I knew your grandfather. I worked with your dad," and I wondered. You always have, a beautiful smile, and you're always wanting to hear how, what. Oh yeah, I'll tell them. But I wondered, like, how does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's always been that way, and it's so funny because Poppy actually just said something to me. She said, "Daddy told me that you used to not like that people knew who you were, and now that you're okay with it." And I was like, that's probably true. I was also like, why are they talking about me? But that's probably true. I think in college in particular, Barbara and I, we were normal kids. Like we had a very normal childhood. We grew up in Midland, Texas, moved to Dallas. It was interesting because we had grandparents who had big jobs, but they weren't in our day-to-day. So it was foreign to us, which is weird. And I know that that's probably hard for people to believe, but it was. And so much so that when my dad became president, he was like, don't worry, you can be normal. Like he just wanted to give us what we wanted, but like obviously we couldn't. But I think he really believed that.
How did they do that? Like what did they do to make life normal? Like
I think they just never asked us to go on we didn't do one campaign or political event for our dad until we graduated from college.
Oh, wow.
I mean, when we were little, we might have done a thing or two for
Yeah.
my grandfather. But once my dad ran for president, we didn't go to one thing. I mean, election night, but during the campaign trail, we didn't want to be part of it. And that was okay with him. Like, he wasn't using us as his daughters for any sort of, campaign picture or anything like that. We just weren't part of it. And I think, I think they allowed us to have our lives. I think one thing that was really fortunate for Barbara and me is that college is this really selfish time.
Yeah.
Meaning you're trying to figure out who you are outside of your family, outside of what the expectations your household has for you. And so we could be in that. We could explore. And so we didn't really think a lot about all that came with our dad's job. We could try to come up with our own identity. And so I think then it was hard. It was particularly hard for Barbara, who went to Yale, didn't know anybody. And she says even now, she's like, I don't think anybody voted for Dad. And even her college roommates were in the front row of some book event. I'm like, no, surely y'all voted for him. And they were like, no, we did not. So I think it was particularly hard for her. I mean, I went to a school where I was surrounded by friends I already had. Yeah. But I think that type of thing embarrassed us.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how cool it would be to have a twin sister to go through life with. You know exactly what the other's feeling. She just had a baby.
I know.
She's been waiting for that for so long.
I mean, it's because we've done everything together, and particularly when we were little, we were in sync. One of us wasn't older and therefore cooler and had a different reaction to something that was happening. We had a really shared history because we were the same age. And so it's interesting how adulthood happens and how I just met Henry and was a child bride and had kids, and that she didn't meet somebody. She had a lot of boyfriends, but wasn't, and people always asked about it. I mean, it was kind of disheartening, to travel with her, and people would say well, why aren't you married?
Painful. Oh God.
I mean, painful is the right word. And, actually Condoleezza Rice once said that people asked her too, why she's not married. Even now, after she was Secretary of State, after she's done all these things, when you want to ask her about the nuclear code or something, why are you asking that question? And so I think, one of the things that people assume too is why hadn't she had kids? And she actually had decided before my grandmother died, she had a conversation with my grandmother where she had decided to have kids on her own.
She did.
And she talked to my grandmother about it. And my grandmother said, I think that's a really good idea. And so Barbara froze her eggs and was planning, if she didn't meet somebody, to go ahead and do it, and then hopefully meet somebody else, or, I don't, that was her plan. And she was so, I think she was so comforted by our grandmother's response, which was encouraging. She was so encouraged by our 92-year-old grandmother's, that she thought, that sounds like a good idea.
Do you miss her, your sister?
Yeah, I do. I mean, she's going to be moving back here.
Oh, she is. Okay.
So I'll be spending more time with her, but I do. And it's interesting how our lives followed this very similar narrative as little kids, and then took this, I just started a family earlier. It'll be really fun to watch her become a mom, and she's FaceTiming me with the baby, feeding the baby a bottle, and all of those, wondering what we should do for Halloween, all of these things that where our narratives are coming back together. And I just can't wait to watch her, become a mom.
I know there's so many, when you think of all these phases of life where you think, I couldn't breathe without the person next to me.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're not next to you.
Yeah.
And
grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
News is more than a headline. It informs, it inspires, and it still matters. To cover it, you have to be in it. And that's what we're gonna do. Every night, we take you to the front lines of the story, where it's actually happening, with NBC News journalists on the ground from all over the world. We cover what you need to know and bring your newsfeed to life. In primetime and streaming live, it's your news playlist every night.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your newsfeed to life. Streaming live every night, it's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Back. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was moving back.
Yeah, she's moving back here, which I think will be really great.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God. You're about to turn 40.
Mm-hmm.
How does that sit with you? How does 40 sit?
It's interesting. It feels, I mean, in some ways, I haven't even really thought about it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's interesting is that my dad had a big milestone at 40. He quit drinking the day after his 40th birthday. Wow. And I actually don't remember him ever drinking. Like, I was 5 years old, so my first memories I had no memory of him ever drinking alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting to me because a lot of his stories, to us, just in our family, sort of begin at 40. His life I think he had like a new lease on life at 40, a really important revelation that he just couldn't, drink. And so that's something. I mean, that sits with me. That sits with me because it was just a really important part of our family. Like that choice that he made really had ramifications that felt all the way down to us. And so that's an interesting thing.
Is that something that he talks about?
Yeah.
He does? Well,
I mean, he does. He didn't, he really just woke up on the day after his 40th birthday. I'm like, Henry, you better watch me on my 40th birthday because I don't really want to quit. I don't think I need to. But he woke up and just decided that it didn't suit him, that he wasn't as present of a parent or a husband as he wanted to be. And so, yeah, he talks about it. I mean, he talks about just how, and I think it's something that's super important that in my life to just take stock of the choices that I'm making, and make sure that, and it's something that I think about. He had a conversation with me when I was younger and just said, always it runs in our family, alcoholism.
Yeah.
And so think about it, just make sure that you're making those choices that are best for your family. And so I do think about that because I think there is this culture and with motherhood in particular where it's like, celebrates.
Right. Mommy juice. Let's go to the park. We'll meet together.
Yeah, or
it's
this
a lot
is
of fun.
mommy drinks this.
Yeah.
And I think because I had a father who was, vocal about that choice, that it makes me just think about it in my own life too.
I was going to ask you if anything scares you, and I wondered if that was on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, and we have other friends, people whose parents were alcoholics, and I mean, I think I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on. I don't feel like it affects me in a way, but my sisters quit drinking. My mom no longer drinks, so it definitely is something that I don't think it's as scary because I don't remember
that part.
My dad drinking too much. And I never really thought, my mom, I don't remember my mom drinking too much. So it's not like, but I think I'm definitely aware of it.
Yeah. Does anything intimidate you? Like if someone were to walk, is there a person who could walk in the room right now who would intimidate you in one way or the other in terms of like, oh my God, I can't believe that person's here. I feel like we've met a lot of cool people.
I know, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think, it's funny because when I was first interviewed for a book that I wrote, Diane Sawyer asked me like who I'd be starstruck by. And I think she expected me to say like Justin Bieber or something, but he wasn't big then. I mean, I don't know who would have been like
somebody
the 2006
like that.
Justin Bieber, but Justin Timberlake, whoever it was. And I was like Toni Morrison.
You said that when you were that.
Yes. And because I loved Toni Morrison. And she actually said after the interview, she said, "What are you doing now?" And I was flying back to Washington, D.C., and she said, because I wanted to invite you to my house and have Toni Morrison come over. And I was like, damn.
Wait, first of all, I cannot believe that's who you said.
And she was shocked, and Diane Sawyer is friends with Toni, friends with Toni Morrison.
So you've loved, I know you love books because you talk about it. Have you loved them forever? I mean,
yes.
Oh my God.
And Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye I read, I think, my sophomore year in high school, and it totally changed my perspective on everything. And it's hard to even articulate why.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Only a dozen hours after the Eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the Lavender deliberations.
All right, it just me too.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Nearly a dozen hours after the Eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right, it just me too.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Jenna, one of the things I love about this podcast, and I love since we started, is I really do feel like I'm sitting in a therapy session. I'm meeting people, and I feel like I almost feel guilty that this is a job. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. You know, you pay a therapist. I'm like, so how much? But I remember when Pastor Michael Todd came on, he had such a profound effect on me. There was something about how he viewed the world with intention, how every day he set off with something in mind to do, not just, oh, well, it's another Wednesday. But one of the things that struck me the most was what he said about his relationship with his wife and how he builds on it. He said that we become different people every 5 years. So this is what he had to say.
If you're married more than 5 years, you're not married to the same person you married. And we got a revelation that you keep changing every 5 years, and I needed to relearn who she was. What she used to like, she didn't like anymore. And so I would do certain things, and I was like, man, that used to really work. That used to really get you going. What happened?
I mean, that right there, is that the plainest statement? You've been with Henry for a long time.
It's the plainest, but when you told it to me, it was like a light bulb went off, because I have said to Henry, but why aren't you as joyous?
Yeah.
When I first met Henry, I remember him skipping.
Oh,
he was
real?
that. I mean, I don't know if he actually did it, but that's the energy that I got from him. He was so carefree. I mean, he just was filled with joy.
Yeah.
I think that's who he is.
Yeah.
But obviously, however many years later, 13, 14 years later, there's other things that have happened in life that he's not the same person. And I shouldn't expect that. But until you told me, what the pastor said. I had never thought of it that way.
Me too. I did the same thing when it came to Joel and think about us too.
Yeah.
By the way, you're a completely different person than the person I met when you started working here.
Yeah.
You're totally different. You're new. You come in with a million ideas. You're so in charge. You are so in charge.
I am.
Yes, you're in charge, man. You have this thing which I found really admirable, because you could walk into a place where you have learned the craft. You've learned this craft faster than anyone I've ever seen. You have the craziest news instincts that I haven't seen with someone who hasn't been in this business for like 15 years. You're like, let's lead with that. Why don't we take a break here? Why don't we, all those little bits and pieces. But that's just how you've changed professionally. But I was just thinking about the same thing back to me and Joel. It's like, it's the exact same thing. Joel doesn't like the same things he liked.
Yeah.
We always ate at the same place. I never really liked the place.
Yeah.
Why are we eating there again?
Yeah.
I never wanted it. I did it for you, because now we're just being who we are.
Yes.
We're not pleasing anymore.
Yeah, and I thought his thought about really getting to know somebody,
yes,
and no matter who, like even parents and friends and siblings, to really think like, okay, this is who I know you as, but who are you now? I thought that was brilliant.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night, it's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today.
Let's go!
Think you'll run for office one of these days?
I'm not saying no to anything.
Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
That was amazing.
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press. This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, it's so funny. A friend of mine who I haven't spoken to in like a few months called me just to talk. And I said, well, tell me what happened. And she said, well, my mom passed in September. And it was like a knife in my heart. You know, when you realize that you weren't present for somebody's worst moment. And she said, I'm just going to say one thing to you. She said, my mom told the same story 1,000 times, and we all rolled our eyes. And she said, just do this for me. Listen to your mom tell the story again. Whatever her story is, listen and let her tell it to you again and again and again. She just talked about how fleeting it all is. And it just struck me in that moment, because as we go through our busy lives doing what we do, someone lost somebody, and all she wants to do is listen to the same story just one more time.
Yeah, you know, Henry lost his dad during the pandemic, and we watched this Harry Smith piece about a man, and Henry's dad had polio and was in a wheelchair Henry's whole life. And we watched this piece with Harry Smith together about this man living in a wheelchair who was paralyzed later in life. And Harry said, well, how do you dream? What are you doing in your dreams? And Henry burst into tears and said, why didn't I ever ask my dad what he dreamed about? Because his dad could walk, just wondering, and I think it was such a, I said to him and to everybody, listen to that story, but also ask your parents or your grandparents or whoever it is what they dream about.
Yes.
Ask them about what they were like when they were young.
Yeah.
Have those conversations because you're right. It's like time is fleeting.
Right. Okay. One of the other life lessons, and we learned a ton of them, was when my dear friend Maria and your dear friend Oprah were together. And I had so admired their friendship. But the thing that struck me was Oprah said that she only has 3 friends. And I think she has lots of acquaintances, lots of people who know her, lots of people who talk to her. She has Maria, she has Gail, and she has Bob, who was her trainer for many, many years, but is obviously her dear friend. Her circle is small and it's tight. And I'm not sure if that's a trust thing, like I know these people will always have my back, or if that's all she needs. So what's your friend philosophy?
Yeah, well, what about Stedman? Stedman's a lover.
You love her, yeah.
It's interesting because that surprises me because there's so many people that feel like Oprah is their friend, but I think it's like she's their friend, but she's these 3 solid, like North Stars almost.
Yeah.
And I think, I have that too, but I do have a lot of friends.
You do.
From a lot of different stages in life, and some of whom I'm, closer with than others.
Yeah.
But I had parents and grandparents who really treasured friendships. I mean, both of my grandparents saw their best friend on the last day of their life. My grandmother had her best friend over to drink a Manhattan, her favorite cocktail. And my grandfather's best friend, Jim Baker, snuck into the hospital with something to make a dirty martini. And I think I witnessed, it was so ingrained in my family, in the culture of our family, that friendship, they would say it in letters that I read from my grandmother. She asked about my friends. They included our friends in things.
Right.
So it's part of my DNA. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think I have space for probably more than 3.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have a handful, but I do think when someone new steps into my life, like you, I love the feeling. I feel like I'm a better person because of that. Because I think you can keep your tight circle. We all have our 2 a.m. phone call.
Yeah.
Who's your 2 a.m.?
Yeah, probably Farrell, my longest.
Yeah, and mine's probably Karen.
Yeah.
So we know who our 2 a.m. phone
and
call
Barbara
is.
And probably,
Barbara and Howard.
Yeah.
But you're right. But we've got that core group. But I feel like I'm always enhanced when somebody new steps in and says,
too.
"Oh my gosh, I've got this." The other thing they talked about, Oprah and Maria both talked about, which is I think we both could use, is how important it is to just stop for a second and stop sprinting through your life. This is what Oprah had to say.
Women don't give themselves the right to rest.
Yes.
I remember, I was working with this meditation therapist when I was doing tour last year, just before COVID hit hard. And we would do this big meditation in the arenas. And whenever he would say to the audience, "You deserve rest," you could see tears flowing out of women's eyes. Men don't cry when they're told you deserve rest, but women start to weep because the very notion that you can give yourself permission to rest is a foreign concept to so many women.
Oh my gosh.
You feel guilty when you rest sometimes.
So true.
You don't. When do you rest?
I try to get into bed as early as I can. Sleep to me is rest. I like to go to bed early.
Yeah.
But I try to find time to rest. Right. I had a mom who did not feel guilty about taking rest.
Really?
My mom loved to be in bed.
Oh, she did.
Meaning she would take, if she could, she would take an afternoon nap. No, she just didn't feel. My mom didn't feel a lot of guilt about those types of things. I'm sure she did. Maybe she just didn't share it with us. But that. Being in bed, we would be in bed on Saturday mornings and they'd read the paper and we would have our books. That wasn't something she felt bad about. She modeled taking time. That's why she asked why we were workaholics.
Well, I do think that the sprinting through and I was looking at my my week this week and I was trying to block out some time that didn't involve anybody.
Yes.
And it was almost impossible to find 1 hour, 1.5 hour.
Just to read or do whatever you wanted.
And I started blocking it out just so I could try to do something, take a walk in the park, do something that didn't involve, and I love my kids and I love Joel and all the other stuff, but something that just gave you a half a second just to be.
To have some space. Because I feel like if you do allow for that space, you are better.
Yeah.
You're better at all the other things.
Yes.
But she's so right.
I know. And the fact that women wept when someone said, "You deserve that. You've earned that. That's yours."
And I think that might be a newer that might be a newer thing too.
Yeah.
Because I think with, and we see all these studies of women just all, in the last 2 years, exhausted, teaching their kids and taking care of their families and also working from home.
Yes.
It's like, it feels like it's come to a head almost.
Do you know that I know we've both had really long days, so we're all going to make space for ourselves right after this. But I just want to tell you, my last guest on season 1.
I'm so happy to be here.
We are going to have season 2. We're so excited. We're launching season 2. We have a whole array of awesome guests who have just beautiful life lessons, just like you did, Jenna.
Well, I'm so happy to be part of this because I know how happy it's made you.
Oh.
It's so fun to watch a friend light up at something that maybe wasn't even a possibility a couple of years ago. So I'm so happy to be part of this awesome podcast. And usually on the show, I like to stroke your graphic of your face, but we'll just end there.
Okay, let's end there. Goodbye, Jenna.
Bye.
I have been waiting for this interview patiently because I have always felt weirdly connected to you in so many different ways because I feel like our lives have these weird parallel paths, and the more I learn about you, the more I feel it. And I just want to say I've missed you for a long time. I'm just happy to sit with you. But how are you? You're in Nashville. What's happening?
Okay, I'm good. I'm in Nashville. We are doing a little bit of touring, mostly on the weekends. Boys are 11 and 14.
No, they're not.
I am seriously not a cool mom anymore. I'm like, you just don't know, Mom. You don't know, Mom.
You don't get it.
You don't get it.
Can I remind you of something? You were here at the Today Show, downstairs in the dressing room, with your boys when they were little. And I went down there and I remembered thinking, watching you with your kids, I want something like that one day.
Yes. And I'm telling you, I have more friends. I'm just like, you can do this. Babies are coming in and you don't get the wrong kids. It just doesn't happen that way. And my kids so clearly not only picked me, but picked each other. And man, what a cool honor. I tell my kids all the time, I am so honored to be your mom. I mean, I even told my 14-year-old that last night because he hugged my parents as they were leaving, just involuntarily. My dad's 89 and my mom's 84. And I said, after they left, I said, I love you so much, but I just want to tell you what a cool person you are. Because not everybody just wants to volunteer a hug, whether it's your grandparents, an elderly, you're a teenager. He just got up and hugged him, and I was just like, man, you're an awesome boy with a giant heart. And he's like, I know, Mom.
Wasn't it your mom, Cheryl, at the beginning? Because, I mean, I remembered thinking, like, I never spoke out loud the fact that I wanted children because I thought I had missed my window. So I thought, I hate to say something out loud that I know can't happen. So I didn't speak it. And one day I was walking with a girlfriend down a street and she said, well, me and you, we didn't want to have kids, so it worked out great. And I said, well, I actually did. And I just thought I missed it. And I just remember saying it out loud and how weird that was to speak it and then to say it again. And it kind of like made it real. Sometimes I feel like even if you whisper your secret into the mirror, the bathroom mirror, at least it gives it breath and life.
Yeah.
Did you always want kids? Did you talk about it when you were younger? Did you always think about it?
I just never didn't think I would have kids, and I think I was thinking of it in the context of family. It wasn't like I saw myself being pregnant. I couldn't wait to experience having a baby inside of me. It wasn't so much that. It was much more about the wonder of getting to raise a person, you know, and obviously, as you know, Hoda, I was 45 when I adopted my first one. I was 48 when I adopted my second one. I had the gift of getting a lot of things out of my system before I had my kids or before I got my kids. So there wasn't anything that I felt like I was missing. If I stayed home and something was going on, I just didn't feel like I was missing anything, that I wanted to be anywhere else. And that's a gift. I think if I was in my 20s and even early 30s trying to be in the world that I've lived in for the last 28 years, I might have been pulled in a lot of different directions. But, you know, there's one thing about a woman and the biological clock. You know, we get blamed a lot for the demises of relationships. Well, her biological clock, or she wanted kids and I wasn't ready for that. And it's such a, I don't want to say a sexist thing, but it does feel like that, you know. And I remember my last relationship crumbling largely because that is what I wanted. I didn't want to be somebody's girlfriend and raise their kids. I didn't want to be a stepmom and not be made a wife and a mom. You know, it's sort of like being in a relationship with someone, but being also the babysitter, but not getting to be the real parent. And yeah, that did crumble that relationship. And when I came out of it, it was my mom, and I came out of it and also had breast cancer and went through that. And it was my mom who said, why don't you just get a surrogate and get some sperm? And I mean, this is like Bernice Crow from tiny town in Missouri. My head is like exploding. Like, what did she just say? Like, just have my own babies? What? But it was that. It was her saying, look, you know what? If you adopt, you have a family around you who will stand at the altar with you at baptism and say, we are his community or her community. And that's what they did. And that's kind of what gave me the life raft, to not limit myself to that. Oh, you got to be married. You got to be stable. Then you have kids. My story didn't lay out like that, but the story I was telling myself limited what I thought I could have until somebody stepped in and said, wait a minute, your story doesn't have to look like your mom and dad's story.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to look like the conventional family that you had. Families look like all different things.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. You think you'll run for office one of these days? I'm not saying no to anything. Wow.
Welcome to Football Fright in America.
That was amazing.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You know what's interesting? You said something in the middle of that story that struck me too, because I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the same time my relationship was falling apart. And what was weird about that moment, when you just mentioned it, I had this weird feeling. But what I remember about it was it was kind of strange because I felt like I had two pains going on at the same time, and I couldn't go down the rabbit hole on one. Like, I was so angry at him, and then I had to go in for my test, and they were like, you need a mastectomy. And then I was so mad at the doctors, and why me? And I ate apples and ran in Central Park, and what are you talking about? I was so mad. And then I was thinking about, but what about, and him? But it was almost like, and I kind of liken it to like having two kids, and one kid's coloring on the wall, and the other kid's spilling flour all over the floor. And you can't, like, you only have so much attention, so you can't get super mad at that kid because you got this kid over here. So weirdly, your grief is kind of lessened. And I wondered in a weird way if that, did that help me in a strange way? I couldn't get so depressed on one thing that I had two things to worry about.
Yes. Not to analyze my last relationship, it was a public relationship. There were a lot of facets to it, but it was a relationship that I seem to keep going back to. And I think when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, that was like, oh, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to really look at this, and you have to put yourself first. And once I got that message, I really had to sit down and learn how to hold an emotion. I remember my friend who I used to say was kind of psychic, but he said, no, everybody's intuitive. It's just whether you really want to know the truth. He said to me, he's like, emotions are the gateway to awakening. And I had not really understood that until I had to go through a real grieving process. I had to not do that thing that we get so good at, which is, just don't think about it. Just stay busy. Just make yourself busy. Don't dwell in it.
Yeah.
And that is the antithesis of what we need to do for healing. We need to actually sit with the pain, the anger, the grief, all of it that goes along with getting to the other side. The only way to get through it, plow through it and experience it. And so for me, I just embraced it. I said, I'm not going to make a record. I'm not going to pick up my guitar. I'm not going to journal. I'm actually going to sit and be angry and be sad and grieve and all that. And when I came out of it, I just felt like, okay, I remember now who I am. And all these events, I think, kind of help us remember who we are. We get so far away from it sometimes with all the messaging that we put on ourselves about who we are or we aren't. And it was a serious cleanup.
Wow, I didn't realize.
Cleanup on aisle 7.
No, well, I love like no records and no journaling. That's interesting, just to sit in the middle of it. Did you ever? I never. And this is probably not healthy. This is me. I never really had a follow-up conversation after it was over. That was the end, and that's how I played it.
Well, I think in some situations, man, I'll tell you what, I am blessed to have a wise mom, but she said, no matter what you think you're going to get from that conversation, you're never going to get what you think. And that's part of, I guess, the end of a relationship. There's not generally closure unless you both are, that if you communicated that way, you might not have split. But in my relationship, I was not ever going to get the kind of answer I thought I was going to get.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know if you're like this, Hoda, but I have measured myself for almost my whole life by my productivity, and that's what gave me self-worth, and not just the quantity, but the quality. It couldn't be 10 songs. It had to be 10 great songs, and they couldn't be 10 top 200 songs. They had to be 10 top 10 songs. It's like
it's exhausting.
At a certain point, it's exhausting, and you wind up never feeling fulfilled. So, sometimes in order to fill yourself, you have to sit with it.
Sit with it. Wow. Yeah, because I know it's like when you put a song out, they're like, well, when's the next one? You put an album out. When's the next one? You write a book. When's the next one? You're like, oh my God, how about this one? How about if we sit with this one for 1 second?
Can we just look at this baby right here? Look at this cute chubby baby.
Oh.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other,
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right,
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast. Free wherever you get your podcasts.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast. Free wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I was just thinking back to the infancy of your career, and I know that people look at you and think, they see you, first of all, I watched you, I think, at Radio City. That was one of my final concerts before the world shut down, and I loved every second of it. But I was just thinking about, people probably think, well, somehow it was easy for her. But I loved knowing that, and I think it was 1986, you were pounding the pavement, and they were like, no, darling, no, not you. Nothing, doors were opening, and you were talented. So what was happening there?
Well, I look back on it and I think, man, I was so lucky to come up when I did and not come up now, because now everything is so brand oriented and so all about self-promotion. But back in the old days, back in the dark ages, I moved from St. Louis, where I was a school teacher, and I thought, well, I was 25, I was 24, and I had a bunch of tapes, and I thought, I'm just going to go out to LA and see what happens. And I got a Thomas guide, and I found out where all the studios were, and I took my tapes to every studio, and if I get them to the studios, and somebody will pick it up and listen to it and discover me, and it was literally like an episode of Friends. And, slowly I wound up getting a little bit of work, and then I overheard some backup singers talking about the Michael Jackson audition, and then I crashed the Michael Jackson audition, and I mean, it just
crashed the Michael Jackson audition. Just even to say that out loud,
it's crazy. And I think part of what was in my favor was my naivete. I mean, I just didn't ever think. I just thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Sorry, you can't come in. You weren't recommended. Well, it's hard to explain, but all I would say is that what seemed like an overnight success, my first album didn't even come out until I was almost 30.
Oh, really?
So, yes. And 30, by all intents and purposes, in the rock and roll world, I mean, I'm old enough to be, at 30, probably Olivia Rodrigo's mom, right? I can remember meeting Taylor Swift on an airplane, and she was literally a teenager, and I was like old enough to be her mom. So yeah, and I've been really lucky. I've had now, God, I hate to even say it, but I'm getting ready to turn 60. So I'll be 60 in February.
Let's sit with that.
So I've had 30 amazing years. I've had an incredible journey, and I don't know that you can even have that kind of career anymore, because the attention span is so shrunk and everything is so fast and all about social media and here today and gone tomorrow. I feel lucky that I had those pound the pavement years where nobody would give me a record deal because I was a blue-eyed soul singer is what they called it. Back in the day when Madonna, I mean, it was all about Madonna and Paula Abdul, and people were like, we don't know what to do with you.
Yeah. Who are you?
So
wait, you said the word 60. How did
said
that?
it. There,
how
I
how
said
did
it.
that feel coming off your tongue? How do you sit with 60? How does that feel?
You know those little bumps you get on the side of your tongue that are like a little canker sore or whatever? That's what it feels like. No, I mean, yeah, I don't love it, but I have to say I'm really at this point in my life, I am happy. Something really changed after the cancer episode and getting my kids, and if I never got to sing another song, I would still feel the joy that I feel right now. And that's a good place to be, for somebody who's always measured themselves by shucking and jiving through, life. Like, look at me, I can twirl, I can sing, I can play the bass and the piano, and to be able to say, you know what, I love my life. It's a great place to be.
Now, what has motherhood given you that your work couldn't, that relationships couldn't?
Well, I mean, motherhood has changed. It's created a barometer for sure. I mean, I don't make any decisions that aren't pretty well decided by virtue of what my kids have going on. So, although that I'm sure irritates everyone around me, I don't plan anything without, like, I've already been told by my 11-year-old he doesn't want to go on the tour this summer.
Oh.
He wants to stay home and play baseball and hang out with his friends.
So now what do we do?
Well, we got invited to play in Europe the first week of school. I don't want to do that.
Okay. So you're not
So,
doing.
I mean, we're going to we've been learning the lesson of, first of all, compromise, and secondly, friendly what is it? Not tyranny, but when you're the ruler of a country, this is what happens when you're 60.
dictator?
You can't think of words. Friendly dictatorship. Yes. So if it doesn't work in the compromise, then there's the friendly dictatorship. But yeah, I mean, I would say that I had to really, before I could be happy being a mom, I had to be happy. And that was the first thing. And then being a mom has been the greatest gift and the greatest occupation. I mean, I have full respect for moms across the board. Single moms, working moms, even married moms. Being a mom is no joke. It's 24 hours a day. And unless you're going to let somebody else raise them, you are on call 24 hours a day.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, I know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. Lavender and then Richardson.
All right, it just me too.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work, or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun.
Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun.
Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast. Free wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
Do you have room for another love in your life, do you think?
I do.
Do you already have that?
I don't.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I don't. I mean, I don't want to say sadly. I mean, our family is I mean, we're complete. It's tricky now. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
tricky.
sure.
You date somebody and you pretty quickly decide how they might fit, or if they unequivocally, you wouldn't even let them near your kids. You know what I mean? And truth be told, I just don't feel like I'm missing it anymore. I mean, I love the idea of it, and I would love to be loved and to love, but my first loves are my boys, and whatever I bring in or whatever comes in, I'm open. I'll just say that. I'm open.
You're open. When it came down to, my girls are adopted too. They're 4 and 2, and they know they're adopted. Obviously, I've told them, and I know more questions are coming as we go. And I guess I'm looking for a little advice because I don't really quite know. Like, first I thought, should I volunteer information? I thought, no, let me wait till they ask me. There's such tricky conversations to have. How did you know how to navigate those waters?
Well, I had 2 different situations with my boys. I knew Wyatt's birth mom, and I did not know Levi's birth parents. But what I did with Wyatt was I made his story. I made a book, The Story of Wyatt, and I had pictures of the day he was born. My mom and dad were there, and I got to take him home. He was 4 hours old, and so I had all these pictures, and it explained who everybody was, and it talked about how, I'd asked God to be a mom, and that I knew that God was going to take care of me, and that if I was supposed to be a mom, I would be, and that lo and behold, God brought you into my life, and but that he came through somebody else's tummy, but I got to be his forever mom, So anyway, he, from a very early age, not only was not interested in it, didn't want to see it at all.
Oh, okay.
And even really up into the age that he was able to understand it. Well, actually, period. He's not wanted to see that book. He hasn't been ready. He chose his life, and he didn't want to know about the rest of it. My Levi is he's very pragmatic. There is nothing he will not say or ask. If you want to know if you look fat in a pair of jeans, he will tell you. And he's right off the cuff. Were my birth parents short? Because I really want to play basketball. I mean, these are the things that matter to him, He asks questions, and he has the story of Levi as well. And he likes it. He doesn't want to look at it, but he's going to be my, I'm going to go out and find him on my own. And I've told both my boys, when you are ready, when you become old enough, like 18, I'll help you. We'll go find him together, and nothing will come between the way you and I love each other, but you have a lot of love. So, and you love people in a lot of different ways, and families look differently. No, but neither one of them have asked me why their birth moms gave them away. And some of those questions will be hard. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I do have that fear of, okay, someday when I'm older, they go find their younger mom, and suddenly I'm going to spend Christmas at my mom, and or with my real brother, and I get emotional about it, and I get scared. But you know what? It's like it's like I tell my dad when he's worrying. There's no point in worrying about it. It's not going to fix it.
Yeah.
When you get there, you get there. So that's just the way I'm approaching it.
I think, that sounds healthy. And I like this sort of God's got this. It's sort of like, because I have those feelings too. And they don't ask many questions now. They're super young, but they do know a lot of things. So I literally, some days I get this ouch in my stomach. I'm like, okay, I got to be ready. Like, how's this gonna go? What do they think when you're on stage? Are they wigged that you're up there killing it, or do they think it's
early days? They didn't really understand it. Like, I've got videos of both the boys coming out in their PJs. I had this had this wonderful nanny who's now my assistant, and they would always come say goodnight before they'd go to bed, like at 8:30, and I'd just be getting started, and they'd come out, and sometimes they'd come out on stage in their PJs and do a little jig or whatever, and they just seeing all those people. That's they didn't really understand what that meant, and then when I started making the record before the last called Be Myself. And I was making it during school hours. I would go pick them up and I'd bring them back to the studio and we'd work for another couple hours. They got to be around during the making of that record and understand, oh, this isn't just something where she goes out on stage and sings songs. She works. Like it's a workplace and it's like serious work hours and doing things over and over. And then they got interested in it and got to like learn about some of the engineering stuff. And then it became like, oh, okay, so she's not just famous because she has like All I Want to Do or Soak Up the Sun or the song from Cars. And that made a difference. But, now that they're older, they'll come to the side of the stage and wave and then they'll go back and want to get on their iPads. And I'm just like, no.
Oh,
no. So they make money by helping out.
Is that how they do?
They make $5 a gig for bringing out guitars. And 2 summers ago when we were out with Phil Collins in Europe, about halfway through the gig, Levi's like, we're walking off stage and Levi's like, Mom, can we negotiate a flat rate? $5 a gig doesn't seem like very much. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're 9 years old. How do you know what a flat rate is?
How do you even get that? Wait, are they musical? Do they are either of them in music?
They are musical, but that I think part of it is they came in that way, but also they've been saturated and by osmosis they are musical.
Cheryl, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much
Hoda,
for
I
visiting
love
with me.
you.
I love you too. Come see me
Let's
when
get our kids to marry each other.
Oh my God, that would be
Come on,
perfect.
let's do it.
Yes, it's not that big of an age gap. 8 years and 10 years.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
by the time they're adults,
Okay, we'll have a date. All right, honey. Good
Okay.
seeing you.
All right, it's good
Take
to see
care.
you too.
You too.
Thanks.
Hey everybody, thanks for spending your Tuesday here on Today All Day. I'm Joe Fryer in for Carson, and this is Pop Start Plus. Today on the show, we have some great interviews to share, including the fantastic Helen Mirren, plus Jenna's moving open book conversation with the daughter of country legend Alan Jackson. First, here's your Pop Start news.
First up, the Royals. The family is getting together on screen in a new documentary for Discovery Plus, paying tribute to the late Prince Philip. A first look at the project titled Prince Philip, The Royal Family Remembers. Features interviews with Prince Charles, wife Camilla, and both his sons, William and Harry. The family opening up about what the late patriarch meant to them.
What you see is what you got with my grandfather, the authenticness of him. He was unapologetically him. He's always been the sort of heart of the family and always been a huge presence behind everything we've done, really.
I don't think that people understood what he had given.
And we were lucky to have him for nearly 100 years.
How great is that for them to be able to come together to do that? I'm sure he's smiling from heaven on that one. Prince Philip, The Royal Family Remembers, starts streaming on December 16th. All right, next up, Oprah and Tom Brady. The two sat down on the latest episode of Brady's SiriusXM podcast. Let's go! And that's what it's called. And when talking about holiday traditions, the Super Bowl champ revealed the one thing he's most looking forward to in retirement.
You know, there's one thing about playing in the middle of the football season is, you kind of overlook a lot of birthdays. Thanksgiving is a lot to be thankful for, but you only get about 4 hours to enjoy it. Practice usually ends about 1 or 2. You eat about 3:30 and then, you're getting ready for next day of practice. So I'm looking forward to the time when I'm done playing football so that I can have some of those more normal holidays that I had growing up that were important, where the family's all together.
What are you actually eating at the Thanksgiving table?
Just like everyone else. Just like everyone else. That's the one deal where I'm like, screw it, let's go for it.
You think so?
I don't believe it.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think he does.
You think he does?
Yeah,
I think give yourself a little sugar.
Yeah.
All right, maybe if I just did that just one day.
Yes, poon.
Yeah. I'm going to send him some poon.
There you go. Next up, let's talk about Jennifer Hudson for a moment, shall we? The Grammy-winning singer and actress recently made a street performer's day with a sweet surprise. Hudson posting this video to Instagram and sharing in the caption, she was walking along the beach when she heard Cameron David performing. And when he announced his last song was going to be Hallelujah, 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 J-Hud just couldn't help but join in. Take a look.
And it's my pride to hear it. It's not somebody sing the light. It's a part of me, a broken
I can't believe that.
God.
She's seriously just out for a walk. Can you imagine looking at the beach, the ocean, the water, and hearing that?
This guitar player's never going to forget that moment.
No.
His life
He
just
said,
cool too.
He did. He said it was a dream come true for him. All right, and finally, the Jonas Brothers. Netflix has released a new clip from the star-studded roast, playfully poking fun at the three pop superstars. And the sneak peek reveals John Legend performing an ode to his favorite band, who have been an international phenomenon for years. But there's a twist.
The music they created took over the globe, sold out shows wherever they go. All I wanna be is their favorite fan. I wrote a song to tell them they're my favorite band. I wish they could hear it, but they're not here today. No John, Paul, George, or Ringo, just Joe, Nick. And I wanna say, Keith, you're not quite the Beatles. Not quite the Beatles, though you're really nice guys.
It's good.
People didn't see it coming. That's cute. Jonas Brothers Family Roast. It starts streaming on Netflix today.
Those are today's headlines. Up next, what Dame Helen Mirren had to tell us about her new show for the world's biggest Harry Potter fans.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcast.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go. International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
Welcome back to Pop Start Plus. We've been talking a lot about the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and Dame Helen Mirren also wanted to get in on the action. She's hosting Harry Potter Hogwarts Tournament of Houses, a new 4-part competition series celebrating all of the enchantment the movie and the books have brought to so many. Take a look.
We're celebrating 20 years of Harry Potter with a little friendly competition.
Harry Potter Hogwarts Tournament of Houses. It's a game show. It's a competition about knowledge competitors have about the books and the movies. Mostly, really, I guess, about the movies, but obviously the books, the movies follow the books pretty closely. And these people are amazing. I mean, they are so knowledgeable. It's absolutely extraordinary. You can play them a piece of music, just a little tiny section of music, and they'll know which scene it's from, which film it's from, what happens in the scene, what happens before the scene, what happens after the scene. I mean, they are extraordinary.
In that clip, we saw 2 Roman numerals on one of the candles. Which number was on the bottom?
Wow. Well, I do remember seeing VIII, which is 8.
David, listen, let's go for
I'm
it.
very impressed.
It is Roman numeral 9, which is IX.
Let's see if you're right.
And it introduced me to a world that I was not aware of, which is the world of Harry Potter heads. You know, people who are of every age, every gender, every race, but all of them share this incredible love of and knowledge of the world of Harry Potter. And they were the most charming, lovely people to be spending time with.
Sophia, how Gryffindor are you?
I'm pretty sure I'm as Gryffindor as you get.
I explained to the creators, the producers, that I knew nothing about the world of Harry Potter, except, you know, as an ordinary person, having watched and enjoyed the movies, I don't have a deep knowledge. They said, that's no problem. You don't need to have a deep knowledge. You know, you're asking the questions. Honestly, I just opened my mind and my heart and decided I was just going to have a great time. And I did have a great time.
House versus house.
I think I'm excited for the audience to see how incredibly knowledgeable these people are about these movies. And I'm sure some people are going to watch going, oh, I know all about Harry Potter. You know, let me see if I can answer the questions. And I think they're going to be quite surprised how difficult a lot of the questions are and how extraordinary these people's knowledge is. And it's, you know, it's quite exciting to watch them work their way through it. We have teams and the teams are very disparate, and to watch the teams, you know, work their way through to hopefully the right answer, sometimes the wrong answer. I don't have a favorite scene or film. I certainly found the last confrontation with Voldemort in the last film very frightening and very powerful. And I thought Ralph Fiennes was fantastic as Voldemort, really very, very powerful. I think one of the reasons the films were so successful was because the actors were so good. And actually, I know almost all of the actors in those movies I've worked with at some point, or I know through theatre in England. I know almost every one of them. And they are all, really the best of British acting. So I think that's part of the reason why the films are so powerful.
This is the night you've been waiting for.
What I learned about the world of Harry Potter was how important the books have been to people, how really quite profoundly important they've been to people, how they've helped people through very difficult times in their lives and been maybe an escape mechanism for people. And also help people then to get through those difficult times and come out the other end. And quite a few of our contestants expressed that. And I thought that was very interesting. It's extraordinary how deep their knowledge was. Their knowledge is amazing, but also how emotionally important they found their enjoyment of the books. It was quite a profound thing for them.
Get ready, all you Harry Potter lovers out there. The show kicks off on Sunday, November 28th on TBS and Cartoon Network. When we come back, Jenna sits down with Maddie Jackson Selectman to talk about her life in a famous country music family.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go! International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
In a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night, it's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now. Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
We're back. Maddie Jackson Selectman is the oldest daughter of country star Alan Jackson, and in a new book she shares how grief after becoming a widow at just 28 years old strengthened her faith. Jenna caught up with her for our open book series. Take a look.
I remember reading that and just this poignant moment of stopping and reading a specific thing that he had written and thinking, this is what I've been trying to say for a year and a half. Like, this is what I've been trying to figure out how to put words to. And I didn't feel as alone because, I mean, especially at 28, you know, as a widow, it's like, you feel like you're the only one, even though, you know, in your head, you're not. And so I remember reading that and thinking, if his heart and his questions and his feelings on paper can make me feel like, A, I'm not alone, B, what I'm feeling isn't crazy. It's actually very normal when you've lost the love of your life, you know, then maybe my story can do that for somebody else.
I am Jenna Bush-Hager, and I am so happy because I get to talk with Maddie Jackson Selectman. She just wrote a beautiful book. I have it right here. It's called Lemons on Friday, Trusting God Through My Greatest Heartbreak. What does it feel like to take what was your biggest grief and put it out into the world?
You know, what's funny is that I was talking actually to a friend this morning after the whole book release this week. And I told her, I think I'm probably the most surprised of anyone about the fact that I get to do this with you and about just the overwhelming feedback, because to me, it just feels like my life. Like it still is astounding to me that people want to read my story and want to be a part of it, because it's just something that, you know, I've grown really accustomed to. And so to kind of see people hear it, it's a really sweet reminder that like every part of our life is really powerful. So and just to hold it, like, I mean, you know, that to hold the book that you put your heart into in physical form is wild.
And to know that others are going to hold it, like in some of their darkest times. You write about losing your husband, and you are or were a creative writing major. You love to write. But what was the process of writing it like for you?
It started out totally organic. I think deep down, I kind of hoped this would be a book, but I mean, early on for at least a year, 2 years and a half, it was not my intention. It was truly just my outlet. I mean, you know that, you're a writer, you're a reader.
Yeah.
You know, it's where it was the safest place for me to process my emotions and to ask really hard questions about my life and about God and about what I believed and about what my future was going to look like, because for all intents and purposes, it was sort of erased. And so it just became this release valve for me, and had truly never gone through anything tragic, not like this. We had a health scare with my mom when I was about 20 years old, and that was really the first hard thing I'd ever walked through. So I had no idea how to deal with, you know, sorrow and despair and hopelessness and all these things. So it just was an outlet for me, as it is for so many. And then about a year and a half into that process, in the grieving process, I was reading a book by C.S. Lewis, and he wrote a little memoir called A Grief Observed after he lost his wife to cancer. And I remember reading that and just this poignant moment of stopping and reading a specific thing that he had written and thinking, this is what I've been trying to say for a year and a half. Like, this is what I've been trying to figure out how to put words to. And I didn't feel as alone, because I mean, especially at 28, you know, as a widow, it's like, you feel like you're the only one, even though, you know, in your head, you're not. And so I remember reading that and thinking, if his heart and his questions and his feelings on paper can make me feel like, A, I'm not alone. B, what I'm feeling isn't crazy. It's actually very normal when you've lost the love of your life. Then maybe my story can do that for somebody else. And so that was sort of the point at which I went back, looked at, these 1.5 years of journals, and kind of just sat down and tried as objectively as possible to say, does any of this go together? Could any of this cohere into a book, and would anybody care to read it? And then I started working on it, and that, it's been 1.5 years since then, and yeah, here we are.
So you talked about C.S. Lewis's book, which gave you such comfort. What else did you read that healed you a little bit? Because we know that books can be these great teachers and companions. It can be escapes, it doesn't necessarily have to heal you. They don't got like some profound lesson. They can just be places we go to laugh.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the beauty of books, and for a long time, particularly after Ben died, I read a lot of faith-based books because that's what has sustained me. I read a lot of books that talked about, what does the Bible say about heaven, and like people who had near-death experiences, because it was just so sweet to my heart, because it gave me a picture of, okay, I can rest because this is where I know Ben is. And that was really important for me. And, read some books by Lisa TerKeurst, who, she wrote a memoir sort of like mine, but it was about her divorce. And so that was a big encouragement to me in the writing process too, because I kept again telling the editors and sort of hoping for myself, if I found such comfort in her grappling with her divorce and the pains that go along with that and the questions that go along with that, then I feel sure that people who have not experienced what I've experienced can find hope here too. So that was just a reminder to me that it's not even about the events of my story, but it's about me walking through those events and hopefully people finding the courage to walk through theirs too. So that was really helpful. But like you said, there's also a place for, I got to get out of this life that I wish kind of wasn't mine right now. And I went back and read Francine Rivers' Redeeming Love, that like beautiful love story about the prostitute and the man who just keeps pursuing her.
Yes.
And I haven't read that since like middle school, and now they're making a movie about it. And I was like, this is fantastic. Like, this is what literature is for.
Mm-hmm, to escape.
Yeah.
Okay, what are your favorite books of all time? This is the question that I feel like everybody's like, thanks a lot for this one. Like, I need to look at my bookshelf.
You would think I would have thought about it, given that we're talking about books, but let me think. I will say what sort of got me into reading and writing. This is such a like silly classic answer, but I remember reading several of the Jane Austen novels in college when I started studying creative writing. And I remember that she was like 19 when she published her first book. And I remember thinking, I can do that. Like, if this woman in rural England can have such like insightful and comedic commentary on just like romance and dating and family dynamics, like I can do something like that. So that really inspired me. My very superficial answer is I'm obsessed with the Hunger Games, read all 3 in like a week, have reread them since. I
love the Hunger Games too.
Creative. I dressed up like Katniss Everdeen one year for Halloween because I like felt like I could be her. So those are some of my favorites. And obviously, again, I love C.S. Lewis and all his work.
Yes. So now that you have published your first, do you think there's more? I know you're a creative writing major. Is there more books to be written by Maddie?
Definitely. I hope so. Yeah. I've got some things, some wheels turning.
We hope so too. Your book is beautiful. Congratulations. It's really brave to take pain, no matter what kind of pain, and put it out in the world to help others. And that's what you've done. So thank you, Maddie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for championing the book and just having me on here.
Maddie's book, Lemons on Friday, is out now. Coming up next, we're taking a look back at the classic movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove, because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back with more Pop Start Plus. To round out the day, we have a special Thanksgiving themed moment from the vault. In Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin played Neil Page, who's trying to get home in time for Thanksgiving, when he meets Del Griffith, played by the late John Candy. Candy spoke to Today back in 1987 after the film's release.
It's a traveler's nightmare. Your flight is delayed and you're seated next to a huge guy who has smelly feet and talks nonstop. And to make things worse, he becomes your permanent traveling companion when the weather forces a detour. John Candy plays Steve Martin's unwanted companion in the hit comedy Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But what's remarkable is his ability to make such an undesirable character so lovable. As you can see, John joins us at our Burbank studios this morning. Good morning, John. Thanks for getting up so early.
Yes, I did.
Have you ever in your life been seated next to a person on an airplane as obnoxious as the character you play?
Not that obnoxious. No, I don't think so.
How did you make...
I guess I have, sure. There's been a number of them in little airports and pockets of travel stories, sure.
Did you do some research?
Have you ever
in that?
traveled
Oh,
with
sure.
anyone?
Lots of people that look quite similar to you, John, that I've been on planes with from time to time.
Sorry.
How would you describe the theme of this movie?
It's a horror story. Actually, it's a nightmare come true. It's your worst nightmare, you know, traveling with somebody who won't shut up. But he's really not a bad sort. He's really a good soul. I think he's a road warrior of sorts. He knows the turf, he knows the area, and Steve's character has never traveled outside of the limousine or to the airport and first-class lounge, and then picked up right by a car. This time, fate stepped in and everything went wrong.
What was your first reaction when you got the script and you looked at it for the first time?
Oh, I loved it. I couldn't believe John Hughes had written this for me, and I was wondering how he got in my head. The dialogue, everything was just so perfect. It was so funny. And then when Steve read it, the same thing, and we were both, and I was just in the middle of another picture at the time, so it was frustrating because I was so looking forward to working on Planes and Trains.
John, let's take now a look at a clip. You're in what's left, I guess, of a rented car, a car that had been burned out the night before. Let's take a look at that right now.
All right.
Great. Pop, watch it! How fast are you going?
I can't tell. The speedometer's melting.
Pull over.
Top of the morning, officer.
Hi.
Is there something I can help you with?
What the hell are you driving here?
We had a small fire last night, but we caught it in the nick of time.
You have any idea how fast you were going?
Funnily enough, I was just talking to my friend about that. Our speedometer's melted, and as a result, it's very hard to say with any degree of accuracy exactly how fast we were going.
78 miles an hour.
78, huh? Well, yeah, I could buy that, sure, I guess. You would know better than us, especially since we got a melted speedometer.
Do you feel this vehicle is safe for highway travel?
Yes, I do. Yes, I really do. I believe that. I know it's not pretty to look at, but it'll get you where you want to go.
Now, you got no outside mirror.
No, we lost that.
You have no functioning gauges.
No, not a one. However, the radio still works. Funny as that may seem, with all this mess, that the radio is the only thing that's really working good, and it's clear as a bell. Don't ask me how. That's underplayed, John, isn't it? It's not broad humor, knock-down, fall-down humor. It's a little subtle, isn't it?
It is subtle. Not that we didn't have the broad knockdown comedy in it. There's a little bit of everything in this picture. It runs the full range of emotions. It was one of the best experiences I've had working on a film, and I'm really proud of it. I feel good about this movie.
What's it like working with Steve Martin?
He's funny. He's a master. I mean, the physical comedy, he's just incredible. And he's a rotten card player.
Everybody seems to have the feeling
he's good with the cards. He can make them disappear, he can make them vanish, but he can't win the money.
Did you have a lot of times playing cards in trailers on location?
Yes, we did. We played a game called Blind Baseball with our own little twist to it. There's about 14 wild cards in it, I think. So, there's a lot of money bet.
I have a nomination for an Emmy in this picture, and that is the person who did your wardrobe. I have never seen such a horrible collection of clothes in my life.
Why, thank you very much. There's a lot of my own wardrobe in that.
Some people say, John, a lot of critics are saying this is really the best vehicle, this is your best performance so far. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's one of the first opportunities I've had to run a character from A to Z. I don't feel that the other performances were bad. I don't look down on them. I worked really hard on the other performances. I think this script was a little more thought out for me. You know, a lot of the other pictures I've done were not really major story players.
John,
you know what I mean?
We thank you for being with us again. The movie.
Well, thank you. That made no sense. I know. I'll come back and explain this all tomorrow.
Well, the movie makes sense. You make sense.
It's so early here. You must understand.
I realize
the
sun isn't even up there, is it?
No, it's not. Okay. Do I do the news? Do I stay here?
No, you can go back to bed now. Thank you, John.
I can. Okay.
Bye.
Actually, I'm going to work. Bye-bye.
Always nice to revisit conversations like that. That concludes this edition of Pop Start Plus. Hang with us tomorrow. We'll have the scoop on the latest Saved by the Bell season with Jessie Spano herself, Elizabeth Berkley Lauren. See you then.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Today All Day. We see you. You're watching our digital show, Today in 30.
We hope that's on purpose. We love that you decided to spend part of your Tuesday with us. And it was a busy one here at Today. Here's what's coming up. First, a Wisconsin community really came together overnight to honor the victims of that parade tragedy. Tom Yamas was right there. He's going to bring us the latest.
And then are you heading to the airport this week? Well, do not miss our one-on-one with the CEO of United, discussing what the airline's doing to handle the crowds, COVID, and passenger safety.
Plus, it would not be Thanksgiving without a feast, so we actually got together early. We had a little potluck, talked about what we love most about the holiday. Hint, it's food. So let's get together. Time for
Today in 30. NBC senior national correspondent Tom Yamas is in Waukesha with the very latest. Hey, Tom, good morning.
Hey, Hoda, good morning to you. We're also about to show you some new video we obtained overnight on that suspect, Darrell Brooks, and what he was doing just before police arrested him. This, as we hear from the surviving members of the Dancing Grannies, of course, that dance troupe that was struck in this parade rampage. I sat down with some of them. They told me how they witnessed the unimaginable.
Tonight, we are all Waukesha.
Overnight, residents coming together, but still in shock.
This is an attack on the community, and it's absolutely heartbreaking and tragic.
The close-knit community trying to make sense of Sunday's senseless violence, when an SUV allegedly driven by 39-year-old Darrell Brooks plowed into the city's annual Christmas parade, killing 5 and injuring 48, including 18 children.
You have people who have military backgrounds and likened it to, a war zone.
New video appears to show the suspect not far from the parade route, moments before his arrest.
Can you call it for me, please? I'm homeless.
Brooks asking a homeowner to call an Uber and let him in before police arrive.
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them. Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Back on the parade route, James Touchstone shooting this video of his daughter's high school marching band when the red SUV suddenly appeared and swerved into the crowd.
And he was just plowing through people?
Yeah, he was no brake lights, no stopping, just plowing through people.
As the chaos unfolded, many off-duty first responders at the parade jumped in to help in an all-out effort to treat the wounded.
I responded to the scene, and what I saw out of chaos and tragedy was heroes.
Those killed ranging in age from 52 to 81 years old, including 79-year-old Virginia Sorensen, known as Ginny, and 71-year-old Leanna Owen, both members of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, a group of performers marching in the parade.
That guy was evil.
Their fellow group members who survived saw everything that happened, vowing to carry on their legacy.
What I would like is for everyone to remember how much joy they brought to everyone. It might take us a year to pull back and get some more people to join, but I know in our hearts we're going to continue.
The suspect, Darrell Brooks, is expected to face 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. Police believe he acted alone. Records reviewed by NBC News show Brooks had a decades-long criminal record that includes arrests for drugs, battery, and domestic abuse. Overnight in Milwaukee, before the Bucks Magic game, a touching tribute. Fans lit up the arena during a moment of silence for the victims in Waukesha. A state and community now in mourning as the investigation into this devastating tragedy moves forward.
And Tom, we are learning more about the suspect. In fact, he was arrested not too long ago, and people are questioning how prosecutors handled that case.
Yeah, that's right, Hoda. Many are saying this morning that suspect Darrell Brooks should have never been behind the wheel. As we just showed you there in the report, he has a long criminal history. And then get this, just earlier this month, he was arrested for allegedly using his car as a weapon, trying to run over the mother of one of his children. But he was able to get out of jail by posting a $1,000 bail. The Milwaukee District Attorney saying that bail was inappropriately low. Hoda?
Yeah. All right, Tom Forrest. Thank you, Tom. Okay, guys, it's time.
Yes.
We need this boost
Tuesday
to go.
boost.
2 sisters joined the military just 2 weeks apart. One enlisted in the Army, the other in the Air Force. So here's what happened when one of them paid a surprise visit after a whole year apart. Okay, those 2 have always been close, but one was stationed in Texas, the other in Northern Cal. They got to spend 4 whole days together. They went on hikes, had that sister time.
That's good. One whole day was just hugging. That's cute.
Sweet. Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in 30.
We give you a mix of everything you love about our show
in a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Jill Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Get ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
This isn't about spending going forward. This is about spending that's already happened. Do you accept the idea that we have a crisis at the border? The vaccine mandate. Is this going to work or is this going to backfire? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, you know, right? 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. Private man deliberations.
All right, it just me too.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast. Free wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back with an in-depth look at the holiday travel rush and how the airlines are handling those crowds.
Yeah, after COVID largely sidelined the plans of many last year, Americans are back. They're taking to the skies in record numbers. Scott Kirby is the CEO of United Airlines. He joins us now in the middle of the busiest travel week in nearly 2 years. Mr. Kirby, good morning to you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, this is a big one. This is a big week. Everyone's heading to the airports, and everyone is wondering, are the airlines ready for the crush? Mr. Kirby, are you guys ready for the weekend?
We are. United, we're excited to welcome back, almost normal crowds, almost to pre-pandemic levels, to be back to connecting families and uniting friends and family. And the good news is also the weather, at least for now, keep our fingers crossed, looks pretty good across the country. So expect to have relatively smooth operations over this busy holiday weekend.
You've been on a bit of a victory lap lately. You have not, at United, had the same kind of meltdown, scheduling problems, staff problems that some of the other airlines have. What, in your mind, is the single biggest thing that United did that protected you from that kind of situation?
Well, I am grateful to the United team. The people really came together during a crisis. During a crisis, it can either tear a team apart or bring them together. And it brought the team together at United. And at its core, that's what happened. And doing things like negotiating a deal with our pilots union that was unique and the only one to make sure that we kept all of our pilots on property and current and didn't furlough them has made it a lot easy for us to bring the schedule back up. And we did it gradually to make sure that we put our customers first and could reliably operate the schedule. But it's really the people of United Airlines who deserve the credit.
Well, speaking of the people of United Airlines, you made it mandatory. You did something that a lot of companies have yet to do. You made it mandatory that every employee that faces a customer gets a vaccine, and you wanted 100%. Was there something specific that happened that made you decide to make that decision?
Well, it seemed like the right thing to do, and we, of course, did it back in early August before the government mandated it. But for me, I think the real issue was I wrote letters to every single family of an employee that lost their life to COVID. And I had stopped writing letters, and then when the Delta variant picked up and I started writing letters again, ultimately you come to it and say, we can do something to stop this from happening. There is a silver bullet here, and we can do something to stop this from happening. And that was the decision point for us. It was all about safety, and I'm really glad that we got 99.7%, 100% of the customer-facing employees are now vaccinated, and this is really in the rearview mirror for us at United Airlines.
Did you terminate the ones who refused, the percentage that refused to get the vaccine?
Out of our approximately 70,000 U.S. employees, there were about 200 people that wound up being terminated.
Let me take it a step further. Would you be in support of a vaccine mandate for passengers on airlines?
Yeah, I agree with what the administration has said, that we don't want to create friction to make it hard if you've been vaccinated and showing your vaccine card every time you fly or get on a bus or a train or whatever it is. The much more efficient way is to do it through the workplace, because if we can get if the administration's rule winds up holding up in court and everyone has to get vaccinated at work at all large employers, then we're going to have such a high percentage of the population vaccinated that we'll basically all be vaccinated and we'll be in a really good place. So I think it's more efficient to do what we did and what the administration is asking other companies to do.
Scott, one of the things I think a lot of us are worried about are the unruly passengers. I mean, you wonder about taking your kid on a flight and sitting there and wondering if some brawl is going to break out. You feel sorry for the flight attendants who are they seem defenseless. So what can a CEO of an airline do to protect the passengers and the flight attendants while they're up in the air?
Well, this is another one that has been different at United Airlines, at least than what I read in some places. And it's a tribute to our flight attendants. We worked with our flight attendants union on de-escalation training. And in particular, what we do to avoid these mask incidents is the flight attendants just hand a card to an unruly passenger that says, last warning, if you don't put the mask on, you'll be banned from traveling United. And we've had to ban about 700 people. But what that does is prevents the conflict in the skies. And our flight attendants have done an amazing job, been amazing professionals. And amazingly enough, our in-flight incidents are down about 60% from the start of the year. So they're just doing a great job. But everyone should just follow the golden rule, take care of, treat people the way you want to be treated on an airplane.
Real quick, though, I mean, they could be banned from United and then just buy a ticket on another airline. A lot of flight attendants unions support the idea of the airlines sharing with each other their lists of red flag passengers or potentially disruptive passengers. Would you support that?
We absolutely support that. We need the government to authorize us to share those passenger lists, but if they did, we would absolutely share it and be supportive of that.
All right, United Airlines CEO. By the way, United recently resumed serving hard liquor on air travel. Can't believe I'm asking that, but does that seem like a good idea in light of these incidents?
This is part of getting back to service and returning to normal, and this is about service. And again, because we haven't had those same incidents on board airplanes, it's great. Our people want to take care of customers, want to do the right thing for customers, and this is just one more element of the service. So it's great to be bringing back meals and alcohol service and really getting back to pre-pandemic normal.
All right, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby. Scott, thanks for getting up with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stick around because there is much more coming up on Today in 30.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
The Meet the Press Chuck Toddcast, free wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app. Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore.
More good people than bad people, right?
5 seconds, 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses by the Lavender delivery system.
All right, it just me too.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today. Let's go. We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age? You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. Well, the food on Thanksgiving tables really tells the story. Every time a family recipe is served, holiday traditions live on.
Boy, that's for sure. Just one bite can bring back a flood of beloved memories.
Yeah, so Savannah, Hoda, Al, Carson, and I decided it would be nice to share a Thanksgiving potluck, each bringing along a cherished family dish. There they are right there. Let's face it, the true star right in the middle. That's Al's mother's famous sweet potato poon.
Oh, man, this made for a delicious meal, a great afternoon together that we were all thankful for.
Thanksgiving is about family, and you guys are family.
Cheers. To the family.
Oh, to the family.
To the family. Peacock family. Let's say grace.
Dear God, thank you for bringing us together for this beautiful meal. Thank you for friendship. Thank you for love. Thank you for laughs. Thank you for poon.
Wow.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for
Amen. And on the fourth day, God made poon.
I think we need to just start with
Let's
the poon.
eat.
Yeah. Let's get the poon out of the way.
All I know is my mom, since we were kids, would make this dish, sweet potato poon. It's like a crustless sweet potato pie, but you top it with a marshmallow. It does double duty. You can either bring it out as a side dish, or you can make it a dessert.
Crushed pineapple
Wow.
makes it.
The cinnamon.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Isabel Roker.
Wow.
Thank you for the food.
This is Roker.
She's smiling now.
Speaking of moms, we have another mom
Cheers.
represented here, don't we?
Betty Jo. Betty Jo Melvin.
Yes.
That's her famous mac and cheese. It's 6 different cheeses.
Wow.
One of them is Velveeta. So there's a debate every year about whether that's actually, a cheese.
Yes, great cheese. Can we trade recipes after this?
I would love that. Because SG, your mom,
Yeah.
Let's get this.
your mom is represented too.
Hold on, everybody, get ready. Buckle in. We're going in the time machine.
Oh, boy.
Back to 1974. Here we go.
Nixon was president. I was 3. And broccoli would only be eaten if put with onion rings, cheese, and rice. This is broccoli cheese casserole.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
This has every food movement.
It does. I asked my mom for the recipe. I expected an image of an old recipe card to show up on my phone. But what came up was recipes.com, which is, she can't remember the recipe. She said, this is basically it. Don't substitute the cheese sauce.
Talk to us about these mashed potatoes,
Well,
my darling.
these are Patty Daly Crusoe's famous drunken mashed potatoes. It's a basic mashed potato with a lot of cream and a little extra butter, a lot of love, a little bacon. But then she would put a shot of either gin or vodka in, and she swore that it created a velvety nature.
You don't taste the vodka.
No, you don't.
But do you drink it while you're cooking it too as well?
Absolutely do.
I love it. Cheers.
How did it taste? It tastes good?
It tastes fantastic.
Yummy.
Yummy.
How about dessert? How about Sammy's baklava? This is what I'm talking about.
Tell us about it.
This is what I live for.
My mom is known for one dish, and it takes her, you guys, forever. It's phyllo dough, walnuts, a honey mixture, and layer after layer after layer. It's crispy and crunchy and delicious. I remember being a kid, and you know how you just wanted a ho-ho, and your mom would like, have some baklava. You're like, why can't I just eat what everyone else eats? I've so come to appreciate this dish that she makes it every year.
It's funny because everyone is doing an homage to their mom.
You're right.
I guess that's what Thanksgiving's about.
I want to toast to our mothers.
Yes.
Toast to moms.
All the moms everywhere.
I love the smell on Thanksgiving morning. When I wake up, I can smell my mom making the Jimmy Dean sausage. Who's out there bright and early, sometimes still dark out? Mom.
My mom, probably like all of you guys, had like this 4-burner stove with a small oven. I'm so old, they didn't have microwaves. And somehow she got this massive spread out. How do they do it?
I remember some year my mom started a tradition of let's all say one thing we're thankful for. Except for you're so hungry that everyone's droning on about their gratitude and you're like sneaking a bite.
Hey, you guys, in your house, who carved? Who was the turkey carver?
Oh, my dad.
Your dad?
I remember when my dad would do it. I remember the Thanksgiving that he handed me the electric knife. And he said, son, it's your time now. And I was so excited.
I'm in charge typically of just the turkey. I fry the turkey, I get the supplies, get the
Call the fire department.
Oh, well, I just give them a heads up, give them a heads up. But so we stand around, we're smoking cigars, we're drinking the brown nectar.
It sounds like fun. at your
Yeah.
house. I like that I get to have everybody at my house. My kids are just dying for it because they're just kind of getting Thanksgiving now. They're like, what happens? What goes on? But I just like us all together.
I think we can all agree that one of the great things about Thanksgiving is just the family being together.
Yes.
You know, after we lost my mom and dad, all of a sudden it was Thanksgiving. And my sister and I, what are we gonna do? We go, well, let's go back to mom and dad's house where we had all of our Thanksgivings. And Thanksgiving, it's a box that we put the memories of our childhoods and the traditions of our family in. And it's the one day that we open up that box and we spread it out to our friends and our family. It unlocks a door to our own family history.
Happy Thanksgiving!
That was a lot of fun.
It really was.
Carson said it so well.
Yeah,
I
he
love
did.
thinking about that as a little gift that you unwrap on Thanksgiving Day, your family memories.
And hats off to Christine Maria.
Yes,
She produced a
wonderful, yeah.
beautiful
And our
spot.
food team who actually did all
beautiful.
these.
That's
I'm gonna dig into that sweet potato pone this morning.
I'm going in for the baklava.
That's why Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. You know,
It's just food.
It's food. It's sitting around. It's
Family.
talking, and you don't have the conspicuous consumption that comes along with Christmas.
That's right. And you pass it on to your kids. You know? Remember when you graduated from the kids' table?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just happened 2 years ago for me.
By the way, it's conspicuous consumption of food.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Which we're into.
Celebration of gluttony.
Yes.
By the way, if you'd like to try some of our family recipes, be sure to check out today.com/food. You can call my mother as well.
Yes.
Or just go to recipes, all recipes.
That's right.
There you go.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
Make the most of your day with Today All Day. Get closer to all your friends at Today in a whole new way.
Today in
30. We give you a mix of everything you love about our show.
a mere 30 minutes.
Shop today with Joe Martin.
We're helping you shop like never before.
The latest styles and biggest names. Today Food.
Things are heating up in the Today All Day kitchen.
Cooking essentials and recipe inspiration.
Is that ready? Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Only on Today All Day.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go. International Day of the Girl.
The strength and courage of these women is remarkable.
What's your message to girls who want to make a difference?
Believe in yourself. You can make it happen.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Cooking up a storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
It's the most wonderful time.
We know it's not Thanksgiving, but we are all going all in on Christmas this year. Look, that was the rank, beautiful, but the beautiful Kelly Rowland. She is singing "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year."
I know, we love this song. And of course, we all know Kelly. She rose to fame as one of the members of Destiny's Child. And come to find out, she's not just a powerhouse singer. She can act too, and now Kelly has a new Lifetime Christmas movie. It's called Merry Little Christmas, Baby.
L-I-D-D-L-E.
Yes.
I like that.
Hey,
By the
Kelly.
way, first of all, what a vision you are. You walked
Thank
into our
you.
studio, and it was like we
Lit
thought it.
up.
Yeah, the lights went on.
Thank you
right.
so
It's good to see you.
much.
How's motherhood going? You have a 10-month-old.
I have a 10-month-old and a 7-year-old, and it is wild. I'm loving it. They are incredible.
Look at that baby.
I'm so obsessed. He's so delicious, and he's such a sweet baby. And Titan is the best big brother, like big brother of the year for sure.
What is it like to watch them together?
Oh, my heart just burst. Like when I brought Noah home and put Noah in Titan's arms. See, that's what I'm saying, how obsessed he is with him. He loves his brother so sweet. I love him.
Oh my God. So do either of them like to sing when they hear you singing around the house?
Titan does. He actually has perfect pitch.
What?
Yes, he has perfect pitch. And I do scales with him. The girls will do scales with him when they're over to the house. And he literally goes.
You say the girls.
Yeah,
Yes.
are you talking about the other
His
members
aunties. His aunties.
of Destiny's Child?
Yes, his aunties will, yeah.
So he has perfect pitch?
He has perfect pitch.
So what do y'all sing together?
I mean, not necessarily together, but someone will be singing or Michelle will start something and then he'll go, "When Jesus." And then he's like, "When Jesus," like he does the exact same.
he doesn't.
Yes, the exact same thing.
You know, I have to say, I grew up on your music. I don't know if you remember, but I met y'all in Washington, D.C., and you gave me this like T-Mobile pager.
Oh, gosh.
Because I think y'all were
You are
being
really telling
sponsored
that
by-
age with a T-Mobile pager? Oh my gosh.
I was like, I could have stayed in touch with Kelly Rowland. We could have been best friends.
Should you just go ahead and confess the tattoo you were going to get?
And I almost got Survivor and a Chinese symbol after a boyfriend.
I'm glad you did not do that. I'm glad you didn't do that.
I was dancing. I had a boyfriend that dumped me.
Okay.
I was listening
You
to
saved a lot of
And you're like,
people.
I'm a
your music.
survivor.
Listen to my anthem, and I
Yes.
was like, I went to the tattoo parlor and it was closed.
Well,
Okay.
see, God,
it
God
worked out
intervened.
in your favor.
All right, so there was a big viral moment that everyone's buzzing about. It's like it's a small thing, but it's like when you haven't seen one of your nearest and dearest in such a long time. It was how Jay-Z looked like when he saw you on the carpet. Look at this.
Big bro.
How big a part of your life is he?
You know what? I have always admired Jay. I've always admired him and my sister, and their love. But it's also the fact that, like, you know, Jay, where he's come from and who he is to us, and you know what he's doing, and just a legacy. I'm just in awe of him, and but above anything, he is a great big brother. He really, really is. And I found that so crazy that everybody like was making a thing over that. I was like, what is going on?
But you know why? I think it's because so many of us are reuniting with people we haven't seen, and that look of delight on his
that makes
face.
sense.
Yeah,
The look of
That's it,
delight on his face when he saw you, and I think also it's like the fact that you call them your sisters.
Yeah.
And the
your
fact
brother.
and your brother, the fact that friendship has stayed so true for so many years.
Yeah.
How?
Love, honesty, loyalty,
It doesn't take much. You know what I mean? I think that it's being supportive. It's that. I have a wonderful support system.
We got to talk about your movie.
It's so much fun.
I mean, we know you're a singer. We know you're an actor. Tell us a little bit about Merry Little Christmas Baby.
You know, in the first one, Jackie's falling in love. She's a tech entrepreneur. And in the second one, she, finally gets married to the guy who's across the street, funny enough. And they end up being this wonderful couple, and now they're having a baby. But the dynamics of her life changed, the way my life changed when I became a mother, and trying to figure out how to be a mother, how to be with this man and his 2 children, because that's what Tyler has in the film, and also how to balance it all. And she's having her own baby, and he has 2 kids, and she's wants to still conquer the world, and it's like trying to figure that out. And then your family comes in town. It's a whole situation.
Wait, this is based on your family, like the chaos of Christmas for y'all.
Yes, and it's awesome, and everyone's supportive, but they all got an opinion, and everyone wants to chime into life and see, but it's love at the base of it. You know what I mean? With all of these characters over the past 3 years, they've all evolved, they've all grown, they all have these beautiful stories to tell, and I just love my cast, and I love Laretha Jones, who was my EP on this movie, and our director. It's just awesome. I'm so grateful.
And you're shooting right now too. You got another
shooting
thing.
Something new.
I am. I'm very excited. I know. I can't talk about it.
We can't talk about it.
I'm so excited about it.
Like a secret, Merry Little Christmas Baby premieres this Saturday on Lifetime. Can you believe Thanksgiving is 2 days away, or as I like to say, what?
Hey, if you're stressed out, join us tomorrow, okay? We got 21 all-star chefs, including Martha Stewart. They're going to help us prepare the big meal, okay? We can do this. We can do hard things.
You got it. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.
Sean, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Great to do it with you. Thanks.
First Flag Day, extraordinary film. You direct it, you star in it, and you direct your own children, including your daughter Dylan, who stars across from you. When the idea came across your desk, direct this film based on a true story, but also direct your daughter, what was your first reaction?
Well, it was an inverse of that, really, because what happened was that I had been sent the script with the offer to act, direct, or both. And I got to about page 30, and that's when my daughter's face got imprinted on that character in a way that I'd occasionally had happened with other actors, but not to the point where it could now only be that face for me. And she was quite young at the time, and when I first approached her with it, and reluctant, and wanted more time to live her life, more time to spend on sets. And so it took 10 years before we ended up, and that the opportunity was still there, was great. But originally I was just going to direct her in it with another actor. And it was really out of a kind of very surprising situation where we had an actor fall out for his own personal reasons about a month before shooting, that I had to jump in or let the movie fall apart.
So Dylan was not obviously an experienced actor at that point. What was it that told you she can do this and she should do this?
Yeah. There was something I was so confident in, blindly confident in, about just observing her over the years growing up, the way she would tell the story and inhabit characters that she would tell the stories about. And I was always just so sure, but it wasn't until the first day of shooting, the first scene we shot together, when she just nailed a long scene, where I realized I had no right to that confidence, and I have all the relief in the world that I was right, because what if I hadn't been, for her sake? And I remember immediately being thrilled, admiring, moved, but mostly relieved. And I looked off camera to one of my trusted crew members, and they had just seen what she did. And, you know, what the, was like, where does that come from in that young woman? And so, you know, we were off to the races at that point.
How do you walk that line of being her real life dad and directing her? Are you encouraging her like a dad during the shooting, or does she need to find her own process, or how do you balance those two things?
Well, what was also interesting is that part of Dylan's reluctance to do the movie was because she never saw herself in front of the camera growing up, though her parents both did it. She did see herself behind the camera. And what was fantastic about the partnership that became of it with my daughter was that she has great directorial perspective. You know, even in the way that one would color a scene, you know, the different colors between the characters and so on. She had such and I think we immediately found we had a shorthand in that. So there were so many times where I might have to explain why I was putting the camera in a certain place with a certain lens at a certain time to certain actors. She already has a kind of grounded concept of that, and with a similar bent to my own.
So what happened, Sean, in that decade from the time she was, I don't know, 20 years old until now, that convinced her, do you think, that she was ready for this? Because I was saying to you before, what maturity for a young woman that age to say, no, I don't want to be in a movie with you. I think a lot of people would jump at that opportunity. But for her to know that she wasn't ready, when did she make that leap?
I think that when I brought it back to her at the age of, I guess she was about 27 at the time, right before we made it, I think that, one, she was bringing more life of her own to the interpretation while reading the script again, and recognizing what a great opportunity it was, and a challenge that she wanted. And then to hear her tell it, she got great encouragement to do it from her mother, and in particular, one of our producers, John Killick. And I think that both of those were really important. And then she had a second moment of great reluctance, which is when the other actor fell out, and I took over because she felt it was, you know, this is a big enough risk to work with my dad. Let him pick one job. But we didn't have a choice, and it ended up working, in our view. Both Dylan and I think, feel very lucky that it ended up happening that way.
Yeah, you guys are phenomenal together. I mean, I was saying to you before that there was this real life dad energy that comes through all the time with a guy who's trying to do his best, but he can't stay on the right track, and she's trying to pull him back in, and he's lying to her, and there's deceit and all these things that we all experience in our life. So I think we should take a step back and just explain who John Vogel is. Mm-hmm. Real life person. Jennifer is his daughter, played by Dylan. Who is this guy, and how did you see him as an actor? What appealed to you?
Yeah, so John Vogel, who at the time of his death was the second largest counterfeiter in U.S. history. He had robbed banks. He had been an insurance arsonist. He was also a revered Chopin. He was also a very talented sketch artist. He took that talent later into his counterfeiting activities. He was, by all accounts, and particularly Jennifer's account, you know, in many ways a larger-than-life, big personality, very charming, so on. I met this character initially not through Jennifer Vogel's book, but through Jez Butterworth's interpretation of it, his adaptation of the book as a screenplay. And as I said about Dylan's face being imprinted, I got an impression of who this character was initially from the fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jennifer's permission, as I went back and read her beautifully written book, with all the complexities of character borne out as well as anybody can speculate on the mind of another, as she did with her father's and so on, there were a lot of clues. And I'm sure I carried some of those into it, but I feel that because Jennifer was willing, both for me as a director and as an actor, to encourage a lot of poetic license, that I didn't approach it specifically to achieve the real John Vogel, because I was really going to be making this, not mine as Sean Penn, but mine as the director, of a slight expression of what that kind of relationship is, what the theme of deception and truth, and which has only become more poignant, in this era. And so I think it was a very intuitive kind of process. I think it was for Dylan, and I know it was for myself.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Follow now wherever you get your podcasts.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
People really don't know what's going to happen. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. More good people than bad people, right? Yeah, 5 seconds. 4, 3. There is some late-breaking news 4 hours into the Iowa caucuses. By the hand with everything.
All right, it just did too.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is now a podcast available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other,
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
Directing and acting at the same time, something you've never done before. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you've ever done it. You've directed, of course, and done all your movies, but you've never done both at the same time.
Right.
How do you begin to manage that?
Yeah. So there are people who are wired for that. I've got great friends, Bradley Cooper, Ben Stiller, people who have done this, Robert De Niro, who have done it brilliantly. For me, I have noticed in my life that I am overdrawn to multitask. It is not my nature to do it, but I often feel that I have to. And it puts an incredible stress on me. So all the other aspects of my life that I do that with, I've tried to preserve film where this sort of mono mind doesn't have to be in stereo. So I never would have, just voluntarily chosen to do it. I always loved directing films and just working with actors other than myself. Directing is a 17.5 hour a day job anyway. The idea of going home to learn lines, each night with everything else going on was too much. But then I found out something that I had not given enough attention to, which was that so much of the stress of directing that can be, or the energy demand of directing, is negotiating two egos in a scene. And as soon as I come in knowing what the frame of the house is, which is all I need to do to make Jennifer's story work, then I can save all of the time on the set by coming in, doing my bit. Okay, and I know the frame is there, good enough.
Do you feel like sometimes one takes away from the other? Was it harder to? I guess the question is, would you do it again?
No.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I suppose if I found something that I identified as strongly with my son as this that I do with my daughter, I would. Well, my instinct would be the same as it was on this, which would be I would certainly direct my kids again. I would love to do that. Dylan's side of that story is that the next time we're on a set together, she's directing. But to act and direct is I think I just turned 61 and everybody's got their own chronology for that in terms of their fatigue. I'm not going to be directing and acting again, I don't think.
So you went through a lot as a young actor. Have you talked to her about that side of it, that you're going to be in magazines, people want to take a picture, and there are pieces of this that, hey, I learned a few things along the way, and here's what I can tell you about it?
She's very self-aware. She knows everything that I know. I mean, it's a funny thing, because I remember when she was 3, she was in the child seat in the back of my car, and we were having a conversation where she said something that was just so astute. And I thought I was complimenting her, and I said, and I'm looking at her in the rearview mirror, and I say, Dylan, I can't teach you anything. And she, why not? And I thought, oh no, I've just made the trauma. But it has also always been true that she kind of got born with a sort of wisdom of soul, and I think that she'll handle this well, and I'll be there for her in any way. Her mother will be there for her in any way that we can. But she's got good friends and she's strong. So I'm pretty confident she's going to have a good run.
And not totally unlike your own experience growing up in a family of actors, right? Where you had some sense of what it meant to be an actor, what that life was going to be like. Were your parents initially as encouraging of you as you are of your children? I know there was one scene at the Repertory Theater where you came off stage very excited. Yeah. And what did your mother say to you?
So yeah, they had been very encouraging. Being an actor was a proud thing to be in our family growing up, and I went off to become an actor. And I invited my parents to my first play, and she came backstage. They came backstage afterwards, and she said, "You were terrible. You have to go to university and have something to fall back on." She's liked other performances better than that one since that time.
I hope so. It got better from there.
Yeah.
When did your mom finally give you a rave? What was the first performance? She said, you're pretty good at this.
She's been extremely encouraging, with the exception of that particular moment. And I remember when she said, you got to have something to fall back on. In a very cocky way, I borrowed a line from the Buddy Holly story where he's told, you got to have something to fall back on. And he said, I'm not going to fall back. So I was determined not to fall back.
You had that swagger from an early age.
Yeah.
What about Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Was she into that one?
Oh yeah, she laughed a lot about that. Yeah, she has trouble when she feels that I'm doing things for a character that make me less appealing. That's when my mother, because she's a mother.
Right.
So, why do you always want to play the ugliest side of yourself or things like that?
Well, Spicoli didn't have that side, luckily.
No, that was a different kind of thing.
Yeah, that was something else altogether. Well, there's been a lot of that then in your career because of the kind of characters you play. So in Flag Day, obviously very flawed man, and you look at your roles over the years, there's always something in those guys that there's some internal conflict. We're rooting for him on some level, but we see the flaws. Are those the kind of characters you look for as you look over the course of your career?
I mean, one could say, as it turns out, yes. While I've had an incredible amount of freedom, relatively speaking, to choose things to do, even to develop things, as an actor with a director early on, I haven't from without been offered every kind of part. For example, I haven't been offered a lot of comedies,
right,
and so on. So when I am developing or choosing things of my own, I tend to go into what is it that's interesting to me in human nature right now. Like what am I asking myself questions about now? And that can be difficult when you're just waiting on scripts to come from somebody else, to time that to the moment that's what's. And I think that's part of what pushed me into directing, is because I really wanted to pick the subject that interested me at the time I'd be making it.
It's hard to even see you in a big comedy. Would you wish somebody would ask you to be in one?
I would love to be. I mean, I love going to see a good comedy. So if somebody thought I could, be productive in it, I would be interested. I mean, I've been offered things, but not a lot, and not a lot I would want to do.
We need to make that happen. It'd be a nice unexpected turn, I think, you take that move in your career. So you've kind of indicated in the last couple.
It's the hard one, by the way.
The comedy is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these. I remember, like when Eddie Murphy did Professor
Nutty Professor.
The Nutty Professor. Yeah. That wasn't, for example, an Academy Award-winning performance. I just think is ludicrous. What some of these actors, Jim Carrey. I mean, there's several of them that do things that are just magic tricks, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, they always say it's harder to make people laugh than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
There's no lying about whether or not it's funny.
You're laughing or you're not.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials, what you need to know every morning on Today.
Grab your apron for a new podcast, Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker.
My forecast, yummy.
Some of the best chefs spill the beans on family secrets to get you ready for Thanksgiving.
This is fun. Bringing the heat for the holidays.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Broadway is back!
Is it easier to pass a bipartisan bill right now than it is to pass a Democrats-only bill? This supply chain issue has been a problem for months. Do you concur that this is going to get worse before it gets better? Are you concerned about the direction of your party? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
To cover the news, you have to be in it. We'll take you to the front lines of the story, bringing your news feed to life. Streaming live every night. It's your news playlist.
Top Story with Tom Llamas, weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Cooking Up a Storm with Al Roker, a Thanksgiving feast and a podcast. Listen now.
Your organization, CORE, which you co-founded after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, sadly has become essential during COVID. You guys doing testing, you guys doing vaccinations, and now again another earthquake just a few days ago in Haiti. I know you said you'll be heading down there soon.
Next week, yeah.
What does it look like from what you're hearing on the ground?
It's grim. It's really grim. This thing that we as foreign workers in Haiti have always talked about, which is the resilience of the Haitians. I'm wondering now to what degree we give ourselves too much comfort with that. It's so relentless what the Haitian people have gone through for so much of their history. And this particular one kind of happening in the aftermath of the assassination, the brutal assassination of the president, and happening in an area that just to get resources to it from the capital, from Port-au-Prince, is very difficult. The gangs own the territory between the affected area and Port-au-Prince. So most stuff, both human resources and supply, are coming in by rotary or fixed wing, and the roads are washed out from this current storm. There's something biblical about it. And my job, psychologically and practically, is to do what the Haitians are doing, which is put one foot in front of the other. And then when I say I really mean our organization's job. And that's what they're doing. They got in on day one with heavy equipment to aid in the search and rescue and the rubble removal and medical personnel. But I'm getting the daily reports, and it's a real struggle. The death toll is still rising. And so many of the churches were wiped out in the area, where, while I am not a religious person myself, what I'm in traveling, working in places like Haiti, the essential aspect of faith is so important. And to have those, houses of worship collapse for them, I think is going to be, it should make things that much tougher.
What do you say when you get down there? What can you say to people who've been through so much, as you say, so relentlessly, whether it's natural disasters or political crisis or the assassination of their president not long ago? What do you say when you get there?
Say, I'm with you. How can I help? And you look for ways to be proactive. That's all you can do.
Is it frustrating in some ways? Does it feel futile sometimes to go to a place that it's so hard to recover and you'll be back?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. This last few weeks, since the assassination, and with this earthquake, it feels futile, but that's not an operating principle, for any of us. Mm-hmm. And when I joke about the sky falling, I feel like this guy, poor little me, feels like the sky is falling here all the time. But imagining it through Afghani eyes or Haitian eyes, the lead you take is, you can say all day, I don't know how they do it. But as long as they're doing it, we got to, find our way to do it with them.
What changes the trajectory down there, Sean? What can be done? People have tried, maybe not hard enough in many ways, but how do we change the story of Haiti from what it seems to be perpetually?
I think the Haitians are going to do that. And I think the way that they're going to do that is because of this resiliency that they do have, this incredible strength, because they have absolutely no addiction to comfort. That in this world where my state's on fire right now, right, with all of the things that are going on in the world, they're going to be the population most tested for the difficult days ahead, the climate issues, it's everything. And they're going to be where the human spirit that we look to find strength.
Sometimes the news can be difficult and overwhelming for kids to understand.
Will coronavirus come back next year?
So to help make sense of it all, we've created a newscast just for them. Man, you know a lot. We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition. Nearly a dozen hours after the eye roared ashore. There is some late-breaking news.
All right,
Today is now a podcast, available every morning. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Today.
Let's go.
We're going to kick off the Pink Power and Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
What's the best thing about being this age?
You have nothing to prove because you already proved it.
What does it feel like to be in a city that you love so much?
I am humbly proud that I stuck up for my town.
We all have the honor of helping reopen the doors.
Is back!
Today is getting you ready for the holiday season. From how to get your orders on time,
The race to prepare for a holiday shipping season like no other.
to traveling shortcuts and safety essentials. What you need to know every morning on Today.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the NBC News app.
I can hear it in your voice. I can see it on your face that you are incredibly passionate about this. Is this the work you're most proud of in your life?
It's definitely the people that I'm most proud of, the people that work with CORE. My children, who have both worked with CORE, and all of the volunteers in Haiti, in the United States. You know, one of the things that happened by getting involved with testing and vaccination in the United States was that we were organizing local people. And to watch them take ownership of the programs, young people, the amount of will to service. And this is probably, if I had a magic wand and got one free day to create something in legislation, it would be mandatory service. And that, you know, after you do your time, we will pay for your college education. But instilling that, and there's so much hunger for it, I don't know if we need to mandate it, we just need to help navigate it and then also incentivize it in ways that people can, you know, take that early experience of service. Young people get involved in service, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And they understand that they can matter, that they can make a difference to somebody, which is the same thing as understanding that your vote matters. You know, it's just being part of the team.
Being engaged, yeah.
And understanding that with independence, there's also interdependence.
Yeah, you mentioned the sky falling, but what gives you hope? You're somebody who goes out and takes action, whether you're wading through the streets of New Orleans during Katrina or down in Haiti or doing something about the COVID crisis right now. What gives you hope for our country right now?
You know, I don't want to claim a false hope. And at the same time, you know, there was a phrase by the Indian poet laureate Tagore that I saw, and it was, "Every new child born is proof that God is not yet discouraged of man." And whether you believe in a conventional notion of God or not, which I have questions about, just what that phrase describes, I think I use it as a bit of a mantra.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
Sean, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
Flag Day. Happy birthday.
Thank you very
We
much.
got to get you one of those sliced steaks with mustard for old time's
Excellent.
sake.
Excellent.
Great to see you, man. Thank
Good
you.
to see you. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Live from Studio 1.